All right, good evening, everybody. It is 6:03 p.m. And we are starting the National Board of Education budget process. And I get to be the person running the meeting today, which is very exciting. Yay. And I was just saying that I never run a meeting from this side of the room, and it's like throwing me off my game completely because I can't see the clock. It's just weird. So anyway, Ms. Sanfair, can you call the roll, please? Oh, your microphone, my dear.
Thank you. So Ms. Darling is not here yet. I am here. Ms. Raymond?
Here.
Ms. Prin?
Here.
Mr. Claffey?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Okay. Ms. Daniels-Williams will be late. Ms. Giglio cannot make it tonight. And Ms. Bishop?
Here.
Okay. And we also have Dr. Andrade, Mr. Posca, Mr. Gray, and Mr. Baus is here, but he's not sitting at the table. And, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I forgot your name again. And Dr. Scarpati is here as well. Thank you.
All right, welcome to Dr. Scarpati and everybody else for coming out. I think that what we'll do is just hand it directly to Dr. Andrade to give us the overview, and then we'll get into the departments. Because I understand we're going to go more in depth with the big picture stuff on Saturday,
Yep.
right?
So thank you very much. I think it's really important. Weird enough as it is, I always think going through the budget is a great exercise on really how do we highlight all the successes in the district, right? How do we see our academic return on investment? And it's an opportunity for a week or a couple weeks to really dive deeper into where do we invest our money, what's our priorities. I'm really excited about this year's format, quite honestly, tonight to go over the departments and see where the departments are investing the money, areas of need. And on Saturday, really to unpack, really. We'll look at a lot more data on our student enrollment trends, our facility trends, our academic trends, and where we are after meeting with all the building principals, all the department chairs, and putting things forward to say, this is what it costs to run the district, and really engage in a dialogue in an open session to see where are we going with our budget. Over the course of the last year, under Ms. Bishop's leadership and the board's leadership, we had conversations about what's our goals. And so does our budget in our conversations on Saturday and tonight reflect our goals? And I think that's really important. We'll see over the course of these conversations. It's going to be really difficult. We have a tight budget this year. There's a lot of challenges that are coming into place, but I think it's going to be a real worthy conversation. Over my last 2 years, we've gone through the budget process in 6 months, 8 months later saying, I wish I asked that question a year ago. I didn't know about X. So I think having a work session in tonight's conversation condensed is really going to give us that opportunity to dive deeper into the numbers, see what the constraints are, really have an opportunity to ask those questions on what's the rationale on eliminating this or adding that. So really excited for those conversations. Tonight, I really want us as a board members and the community that's watching to listen to the presentations and think about our goals. What are the strengths of the community? What are the weaknesses? What are the opportunities? What are the threats? You know, talk about and look at what's the academic return on investment in some of these asks. And for planned ops and IT, how is the budget supporting the infrastructure? How are we maintaining safe, warm, healthy school buildings for our kids and our adults that they can thrive in? So really be critical on how is the budget supporting our goals? How is Tier 1 instruction being supported? How are we strengthening partnerships with families? How are we engaging the community? So really, again, go back to our district's goals and ask what's that return on the investment. So that being said, we're going to kick it off with a bang tonight. It's always hard to go after Lisa because it's all, when we talk about it's all about kids, it's all about kids. And Lisa does a fantastic job every year, and I don't think there's a better way to start off tonight's presentation. So our Athletic Director, Lisa Gingras.
Thank you very much, Dr. Andrade. Those of you who've been on the board a while and seen me do the budget presentation, you're going to see a little bit different of a presentation this evening. There's only one slide that has numbers on it. Sorry. I'll have more numbers for you on Saturday if you want them, but really wanted to focus on the value that athletics bring not only to our student athletes, but our entire schools and the entire Nashua community. So we really talk about Nashua being that gateway to opportunity. Our athletic programs, hopefully after this presentation, you'll understand that we provide opportunities for our students to be college, career, and military ready once they graduate from high school. And that athletics provides valuable lessons and impact on students. And I have a lot of pictures in here where you're gonna see student athletes and students doing things other than competing, which I think is a very valuable lesson through athletics. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how our athletic programs and a lot of our co-curricular programs, not just athletics, are part of the dropout prevention program. That sometimes our athletic programs are the only thing that get kids to school in the morning and help them be successful in their grades. So looking why academics, why education-based athletics. When I have my preseason coaches meetings and some of the regional and national work that I've done, this is something I could talk about for hours, about how important athletic programs within your schools are to your entire school community as well as your students. And it isn't just about sports and competing and winning championships. So if you think about driving down any street, the first thing you notice about anybody's house is their front porch. Doesn't help run the building, there's no electricity, there's no air conditioning, there's no utilities, it's not the laundry room, it's not the kitchen, but it's the first thing you see. And a lot of people will compare our athletic programs, our co-curricular programs, our performing arts to that front porch. That's what you see when you go by a school. Think about driving into Nashua North, first thing you see are our athletic fields. They're almost snow-free at this point. That's what you see. You see kids out there, you see coaches out there, you see games and practices and things going on. It's the last class of the day. We talk about this a lot with our coaches, that when, at the high school, when the 2:03 bell rings, or in our middle schools, when the 2:43 bell rings, that's not the end of learning. That a lot of times our student athletes will spend more time with their coaches than they will with their teachers during the day, or even sometimes with their families, depending on all the activities they're involved in. So all of the lessons that go in, we extend the learning experience of the classroom. We focus on the mission of the district of being lifelong learners and well-rounded students. We develop social, emotional, physical, and cognitive skills. It's not just about playing a sport. We have a lot of students who are our team managers, who are just as vital to being part of that team as others. I paused there for a minute because we had our winter awards ceremony last night, and the Lions Club every year comes and presents a special award, Unsung Hero Award, to our boys and girls basketball programs. And at South, the person who won it for the boys basketball program was their manager. Never played a minute in 4 years of basketball, but he was truly the person that was that unsung hero. And the best part about that awards presentation was how the rest of the team reacted. They were so excited for him. So just a little anecdote there. We hold students to high academic standards and higher behavior standards than we expect of other students. That if they're not behaving themselves, we talk about sportsmanship being not just about in a game or in the stands, but how are you behaving in the hallway, in the classroom, in the cafeteria, etc. And then the bottom statements there are just part of our vision and our core values. So just a few pictures for you about our students, and they might be a little small. So these are great opportunities where our student athletes are doing things other than competing. So just briefly, the upper left, that was a South student who is a student athlete, and she's also part of our music program at South. She came with us to the NHIAA annual meeting in September to sing the national anthem in front of more than 300 athletic directors and principals. So that was pretty cool to have our school represented that way. The big picture in the middle, that's North's freshman orientation. Every year the band plays and our cheerleaders perform as the freshmen are coming into the auditorium to kind of set the tone for where one community, we kind of create a little bit of a party pep rally atmosphere first thing in the morning. Upper right, that's our JROTC program. They come to a lot of our events. Their color guard present the colors. Last year we did a big thing where every student athlete program and every co-curricular program was represented in one way, shape, or form by ROTC students, which was really cool. Bottom right is just our cheerleaders. Obviously, they're there at a football game supporting our football players, but they're not competing. It's about all of us. It's about the entire school community. And then the little one in the middle of the bottom, that's one of our student athlete leaders over at Birch Hill Elementary School reading to the students. So these are just some of the things that people may not necessarily see about athletics. They just see the games, they see the practices, they see the championship banners, as opposed to all of the other things that our students learn and take away with them. So just some of the other things, providing all students, not just our student athletes. If there's a pep rally, that's for the whole school. It's not just for the athletes. And over recent years, pep rallies at both of the high schools have really been toned down from even being about athletics. It's just about the student body as a whole. We have community members come to our events all of the time. This past Saturday, we had a playoff basketball game at South, and there were more community members that had absolutely no tie to the school or the team that were in the stands watching the game, just having pride in our community. Battle of the Bridge events, you've heard about those. That's when North and South play each other. Really big events, again, provide opportunity for the community to come out and support our programs. And then middle school city championships, we have a volleyball, cross country, basketball, baseball, softball, and track city championship where our 3 public middle schools, as well as St. Chris Academy, come together. It's a day long on a Saturday. The spring one is probably my favorite because all 4 softball teams, all 4 baseball teams, and all 4 track teams are on this campus all at the same time. So if you want some chaos, feel free to join us. We develop these core values through athletic competition and teamwork. And again, we talk about all 5 of these not being about winning. It's about being part of something that's bigger than yourself, being part of a team, being able to communicate, to collaborate, to work with people you may not otherwise do. And we teach the students that these are all things that they're going to bring with them to college, to military, or to their career. Few more pictures here for you. Top left, bottom left are just student crowds. I believe that was this fall at our volleyball tournament, Battle of the Bridge volleyball team games. The students always have themes for the big games. So I think North's at the bottom there was superheroes, and I think up at the top, I think that might have been Hawaiian or tropical or something along those lines. The top one, even though that was the Battle of the Bridge game, that is the North and South field hockey teams together. Miss Bishop, you might remember that, as well as our middle school field hockey team. So at the Battle of the Bridge field hockey game, we always have our middle school kids play at halftime and be part of the big picture. So that's all grades 6 through 12 field hockey players in our city. The middle picture, those are our 3 middle school cheer teams. They join us every year for the middle school city championship in basketball, and they come to the end of the day, and we make a big deal out about them being there as well. And then the bottom picture, those are our 2 hockey teams this year at the Battle of the Bridge game. We celebrated a military and first responder appreciation night where they raised funds for the, I'm gonna get it wrong, 7-something foundation, so I apologize. So it was a really great event. And again, all of these things, yes, they're either playing or about to play, but it's about things bigger than just the competition. Some participation numbers for you. These are numbers from last year. So a few things to note here is 1,718 participants at the high school level. These excuse me, this is the highest number of participants we have had since before COVID. So very exciting. This winter at South, we had 308 winter participants, which are the most winter participants at South in 10 years. So that's really cool that our students are really coming back and really participating in things. So last year we had 206 students that competed all 3 seasons. We really promote that, promote the cross-discipline in their athletic programs. We awarded 16 12-season athlete awards. And every year when we present those, I always commend the parents because that is as big of a commitment on the parents as it is on the students. And then our middle school, 675 participants, that's pretty big. They're getting there this year. Obviously, with the redistricting at the middle school level, participants have shifted a little bit in different directions. Obviously, Pennachuck having more students, they've had more participants. So one thing new I did this year, and I will not read these all to you. Every year we have the NHIAA and the Athletic Directors Association, we have a Scholar Athlete Award ceremony. So seniors who have participated in 2 sports, have a history of participating in 2 seasons, 2 sports, as well as having a B+ average, are recognized at this award ceremony. It'll be March 31st this year. And as part of that recognition, they have an opportunity to apply for scholarships. So we give a male and female scholarship to each division. So that's 8 scholarships there. Then from those 8, 1 overall state male and female recipient. And then they have the opportunity to move on to the section and then to a national scholarship as well. So as part of that, the essay they have to write is how high school sports have impacted their lives. So I decided what better way to tell you the value of athletics on students, but in their own words. So I have 10 quotes here. So these are the first 5. And again, you can just see that they're seeing the same things that we talk about all the time. Some future opportunities. We talk about the opportunities we have now, but always looking to be better and move forward. I understand the very difficult budget situation we are in, so it's just something I keep throwing at you that, someday when we have an extra, $300,000-$400,000 that you want to throw towards athletics, feel free. So just some of the things, the programs, again, those of you who have been around a while know I've talked about probably since the beginning of time, is bringing boys volleyball to our high schools. It is the single most asked about program across the board. The other one, I can see Mr. Posca nodding over there because we talk about it all the time. The other one that is gaining a lot of traction, not just in our area, but across the country, is girls flag football. That is a big one. A lot of states are starting to recognize that as a sanctioned sport and a championship sport at their high schools levels. Our middle schools, again, boys and girls lacrosse, behind boys volleyball, that is probably the second most asked about addition to our programs. Lacrosse is just so popular right now, and adding those programs to our middle schools would service more students, provide more opportunities, but then also ultimately help our high school programs. We've talked about B teams, having a second team of soccer and basketball and volleyball and things like that. Comes with a lot of challenges besides the financial piece of that. We only have 1 gym in each school. Finding coaches is difficult as it is. So there's a lot of challenges there. And then unified basketball. Our unified basketball programs are probably our most popular programs in our 2 high schools. McCarthy carried over from Elm Street. Dr. Matt Cobbs does a great job with unified basketball there, but it's not well publicized, it's not funded, it's not in all 3 middle schools, so that's something that I would like to look for in the future. And then new programs, obviously, bring in any new program, we need coaches for them. Strength and conditioning coaches at each of our high schools, that is not just a luxury, but that is also an injury prevention position in both of the high schools. And then we've talked about several years, our varsity coaches are at a disadvantage where often they are the only person with their teams. A lot of our coaches do have volunteers, but they're not paid positions, so sometimes they come and go, they're not there all the time, things like that. And then because of the size of our middle school track programs, each of our middle school programs has well over 100 students. With right now we have a head coach for each gender and 1 assistant coach. I'd love for us to add a 4th person there. So just some things to think about in the future. So when you actually look at our numbers, when you look at our budget, I kind of threw here for you 3 columns just so, especially for everybody who's new. They're in each school, so the north, the south, and then all of middle school is budgeted under McCarthy. So please don't anybody look at the budget and think Fairgrounds and Pennachuck have no athletic programs. We just put all of the middle schools together under one school. So under the general athletics, it's 1408. That's where our annual equipment come in. We need new basketballs, we need new baseballs, new softballs, etc. Athletic training services and supplies, weight room staffing, any dues and membership that we have to pay to the NHIAA or our middle school league or coaches to be part of their coaches association. That's also where all of our coaches education comes from, their certifications, things like that. Tournament fees, when our teams like wrestling goes to an invitational tournament, we often have to pay for those. And then athletic coordinator, equipment manager stipends, and then any contracts that we have in computer programs. So that's under general. Under each program, so baseball, softball, lacrosse, track, swim, etc., those items there are budgeted by each sport. Now, obviously, not every sport has every one of these. No offense, I'm not hiring police detail for a tennis match. Not, knock on wood. Hasn't been a problem. We don't usually need that. But if there is something that we need, it's budgeted under each sport. And then the things on the right-hand side are not in the operating budget. So uniforms and awards, that comes from our special revenue fund. The only fund source we have for uniforms is our admission. So football and basketball admission, that's the only place we get funding for uniforms, as well as our awards, and then large-scale equipment purchases come out of our trust. Couple quick notes. I already mentioned the one on the right about the middle school budgets, but those 5 programs on the left, in your budgets, you will see boys cross country, you will not see girls cross country. Please know we do have girls programs in all 5 of those sports, just they travel together, they compete together, everything is together, so we just budget it together. Here's the one slide with numbers. Sorry, Mrs. Bishop. So something to keep in mind when you look at these numbers, we do have athletic user fees. That is not reflected here. So it's pretty much, here's the whole budget, and then we're gonna subtract so much once we get our athletic user fees in. So just wanted to point out here, more than 75% of our budget is stipends, which is predominantly our coaches, and transportation. Coaching the kids and getting them to their events. 75% of the budget. If we add in contract services, which are our athletic trainers, officials, and the assigners that get us those officials, we're at almost 95% of our budget. So there isn't a lot of room excess. And then just a few items that were significant increases. Obviously, I think you're gonna hear later, not sure when, about transportation being a significant increase across the district this year. Officials' costs are going up, and our athletic training services. You may remember we had a transition this year to a new athletic training service, which was an increase over last year, and then there is another increase into next year, which we were anticipating happening this year. And then just a few more quotes from our students on the impacts that athletics have had on their lives. And again, these are specifically from high school students, from our seniors, top students, B+ or better, that have really spent a significant amount of their time participating in our high school athletic programs. That's it. You like that? And I think we're doing questions Saturday.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, if there's any questions tonight, like obviously, I mean, we'll get more into the figures. But I think, again, if there's questions come up, we want this to be a dialogue on, if we can answer it tonight, we will. If, we have to go into more detail on Saturday, but.
Well, obviously, I have questions. Does anyone else have questions? Mr. Claffey?
You're going to ask all the other ones, so. Be nice to
That's why I gave the floor to
This is quick.
others.
Boys fishing, do you see, I know, I'm looking at the old binder from a couple do you see that continuing?
Bass fishing, absolutely. You're welcome.
Mr. Johnson.
With the girls' flag football, there are grant opportunities available. We're obviously looking into those.
Yes, we have been looking into those. The caution we have to take is the sustainability. So the grants are not forever. So if we accept a grant, it's not something that, okay, we're going to have this program for 2 years while somebody else is paying for it. The district has to be willing to be able to absorb it on the other end once the grants go away. That was similar to when Unified Sports came to the high schools. They were grant funded for several years, but then eventually that money went away and we had to absorb that into our operating budget. So I would want to be sure that long-range plans, we could absorb that expense. You're welcome.
Okay. So I have a couple of questions. Are we having any difficulty, I'm saying we, because my kids do sports as well, getting busing for our various athletic events? I know the cost of busing is going up for everyone in the whole state. Are we having problem with access to bus drivers and buses that are, large enough to meet the needs of our team?
I am glad you asked that question because I have to give a huge shout out to our bus company and to our dispatchers and to everybody we work with, at least I work with over there. We have not had the issues that other districts that I work with and my colleagues have had. We get calls constantly. Sorry, can't get a bus till 4:30. Game was supposed to start at 3.
Right.
So we have not had any of that. There are times that they're like, look, this is going to be tight. Can we combine these teams together? Can we shift it by 20 minutes? Things like that. And we're in constant communication with them that we work very well together. We're calling each other all the time with changes, but we have not had the problems that other districts have had.
That's good. That's good. Hopefully that continues. One more, and then I'll ask Mr. Shaw. The other question I had was on the uniform costs, and it said here admissions revenue only. That's like for ticket sales?
Yes.
Okay. So what about the user fees? Because as you know, my kids both play sports, and the fee is different. Like it's a lot less expensive for cross country than it is for volleyball, say.
Yes.
So where does that money go? And is it part of our operating budget, or is that just for the team itself?
No, that does not go to the team at all. That is 100% in the athletic operating budget. If you look at North and South under the 1408, you'll see, I believe it's the 90500 transfer line. You'll see a negative number there. So that negative number, we're at $80,000 per high school that we're expected to bring in on revenue. So that $80,000 basically just offsets the entire operating budget.
Okay. All right. And is there any proposals to do anything with those, like I don't know what we call them, the fees to play sports for the next?
User fees?
Yeah, user fees
If
for
it were up
next year?
to me, we would get rid of them.
Well, I would love to do that, but I don't think we have $160,000.
I know.
In wiggle room. But are they going up or changing at all for next
We
year?
have not looked into that yet. That is something, they were last revised in 2016. So they were initiated in 2011, then they were revised in 2016. And that is something that we did talk about in our budget meeting, but at this point in time, we were not looking to increase them again.
Okay. And then the facility rentals, like when the Biddy Basketball rents our gyms, does that money go into athletics or does that go to somewhere else?
Goes into a rental.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Shaw?
Thank
Thank you for coming to this.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. Sorry for coming late. I had car troubles on the way here and had to fill up gas. But yeah, I really liked your presentation, Ms. Gingras. It was really nice. I had one question on college. So this year, you were talking a lot about how some of our seniors are playing 16 season athletes and 3 season athletes and all that stuff. How many of our athletes from both high schools are going to go play sports in college?
I do not have the exact number off the top of my head. That's something that we could look into. Part of the struggle there is not everybody notifies us that they're playing in college. So, but we do have several students that do go on to Division I and Division II programs, which are, the big ones that everybody hears about. But we also have a lot of students that are going off and playing sports in Division III schools, which are much more accessible, not only cost-wise, but playing ability-wise. Students can walk onto a Division III team and actually play versus I'm on the roster of a Division I team, but I don't really get into action. We have had several students, I can think of a couple of football players, went off to play at UNH. We have a junior right now who has an offer from UNH. We had a football player go play at Fordham, and then for graduate school, because he was in college during COVID, he got a 5th year of eligibility, so he actually played for UCLA football for a year. We have a student from South going to play at Division II St. A's basketball next year. So our students are going out all the time. That's one of the things our coaches do a really great job exposing our students to the next level.
Okay, I like that. I have a friend who just made the University of Massachusetts Lowell soccer team
Yep, we have a lot of soccer players playing in college.
Yeah, so my reason for asking this question is there anything the board can do to increase this number of playing at college? Do you think our students are getting proper scouting availabilities and training and all that?
Yes, I do. I think they are.
Okay, that's good. And my last comment, I'd just like to say I really support the idea of having a strength and conditioning coach. I know there was one specifically for football.
We've never had a strength and conditioning coach at other high
No?
school.
Okay, I might be wrong. But I think a strength and conditioning coach that would, like a full-time one that would help all 3 different sports or all 3 seasons of sport would be really beneficial.
I totally agree with that. The athletic trainers have been a gift to the students. Mr. Johnson?
I do know a Division II lacrosse player.
Yes, I
I'm
do
aware.
too.
Happen to know one, but
So, right, and welcome, Miss Daniels-Williams. It's budget, so I'm in charge over on this side, but I can't quite see that corner, so if I don't get you, do this or turn your microphone on. Thanks.
So I want to thank Ms. Gingras. I know she's on a tight schedule tonight. She's teaching a class tomorrow morning in New York, so she's on her way to New York. She authored a course through the National Athletic Association, and she's teaching that nationally. So congratulations. It's quite an honor to have Lisa in the district.
Thank you very much. Thank you for letting me go first.
So I'm going to call up Director Smith, and we'll go over our plan ops.
I understand, Mr. Smith. I like to press the button myself, too, when doing a PowerPoint. No, it freaks me out when I'm not in control of the button.
When someone's saying next.
Yeah, no, I'm like, no, I got to touch it so I can go back and forth. So, welcome, Mr. Smith.
Thank you. I've thought in past, there's several people I don't like to follow in these presentations. Athletics is definitely one of them, especially immediately thereafter. I talked to Tara earlier today. She said, oh, you're like next to last in the meeting. I said, oh, this is good. But, and then Tara also told me she spiced up my presentation with some extra pictures. So I had my logo on the front, but she put all those little people and actually did a good job. Those are all little workers and whatnot. Okay, plant operations, you're probably familiar with us, but we maintain all the building systems and components. We clean the schools. We take care of all the grounds, the playgrounds, sports fields, and outside courts. Safety and security has really become a big part of our program in the last dozen years, really. We oversee the crossing guards and, of course, construction and renovation planning and oversight. So we have 18 schools, we have the SAU office and my buildings. So it's a little over 2 million square feet and 382 acres. So when I first got here, we developed mission statements and vision statements and all that stuff. So we kind of got a handle on what we're supposed to be doing and how we can support the organization. But for us to be successful, we need to provide a suitable and safe learning environment for the students and the staff. In doing that, we have to meet all the federal, state, and city regulations and life safety codes. We are increasingly getting involved in school accreditation and those requirements for the state. And then every day is an adventure in my office. You never know what you're going to come to in that next day. We have to be able to pivot at any given moment to address different things on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis. So my goal this year was to provide a responsible budget, which is cognizant of competing interests and challenges. Like Lisa, I know that we have some fiscal challenges this coming year. So I've tried to keep all my costs at a reasonable level, but we still want to maintain our facilities in a safe and educational, solid learning environment. Doing so, we have to replace equipment which is at the end of its service life. So in doing that, we're looking to preserve the current facility conditions, not necessarily looking to make vast improvements in any particular area, but the headwind facing us is inflation. It attacks all of us. We've seen large increases still in equipment costs. We don't pay for the vehicles that we use, but the city does have a capital equipment reserve fund, and we've seen large increases there. For example, we buy cargo vans for the tradesmen's. Pre-COVID, we were paying $40,000, now they're $60,000. And there's emphasis also on the city to buy alternative fuel vehicles. So actually, your next board meeting, you'll see I'm proposing a couple of electric cargo vans for our troops. I used to be in the military, I have troops. And then maintaining a complete custodial workforce is challenging. People are out on long-term disabilities of one sort or the other, and vacancies just because they're sick, and then people just taking time off. So we never have a full operating crew.
Can I interrupt you with a question?
Yep.
Can you explain where how it's decided what items come from your budget and what items come from the city budget? Because Nashua is different than our neighbors. Our neighbors, the schools are like their own thing, but we're part of the city. So how does the city decide, like vehicles are the city, but maintaining them is us? And then the difference between what you're going to present here in the operating costs versus what goes to the JSSBC, which is kind of a big question.
Sure. So this capital equipment reserve fund, which deals with capital equipment, not just vehicles. It's been mainly used for vehicles. We actually weren't even aware of it till maybe 12 years ago. The city was putting away money every year, and we just weren't tapping into it until we stumbled upon it. And we've been using it ever since. It's saved the school district a lot of money because the board used to have to budget for vehicle replacements, and now we don't have to do that. The city has taken that over. Certainly any construction things, large construction projects, renovations, that's always through the joint special, and half of you, or about 5 of you, are on that joint special committee. I mean, those are the main things that I can think of. Yeah. Deferred maintenance deferred maintenance is, I view that as part of renovation and construction, but the city decides how much we get for that. And you've already seen my presentation. Actually, Thursday night, we go to the Capital Improvement Committee in City Hall, and we'll present what we're asking for the coming year, and that's actually a 6-year plan, although I've given them enough stuff to spend for the next 50 years, I think. Yeah. So those are the main things that we get from the city.
So what's going to be in your budget for us to worry about this week and into April is the day-to-day operating costs of running the buildings?
Correct.
Not necessarily things like roofs, right?
Correct.
Okay.
On slide 15, we'll get into the capital projects that will be presented. So
Yes.
that's a little further down, but which will spark a couple more questions. So that'll just be articulated a little further in the presentation.
Thank you. Sorry, I find it difficult to keep track of, because we are a city agency, what parts that we have to worry about the money and what parts that the city has to worry about. And I cannot imagine that the average taxpayer can get it straight all the time either. So, thank you.
This picture really is about nothing, except I want pictures in my presentation. But you'll probably never see this unless you happen to ask me. But this is our warehouse. So behind my office is on the South High School campus. We have a warehouse. You can see a forklift is in the picture there. This primarily has our custodial supplies, paper supplies, cleaning supplies, that sorts of things. Our trades equipment is, there's a basement beneath my office where most of their stuff is. But this is to add a little color to my presentation. So we've talked briefly about people. So like Lisa, if we have money to spend, then there's a couple areas I'd like to add to. We spent, we're about 2/3 of the way through the school year at McCarthy Middle School. It is a larger school in Elm Street. It's brand spanking new, so it's nice and shiny. It hasn't had a chance for that gleam to wear off yet. So any of you will probably walk into school and say, yeah, this is nice, you know, it's nice and clean and everything. But, you know, we're okay right now. I think because it is about 20,000 square feet is about what we expect custodians to clean, and we're between 20 and 30,000. So we're there. I mean, I suggest we look at adding a position there. The one thing my supervisors told me is just a heck of a lot more glass in that building. So, and little fingers like to get on the glass, and we have to clean it all the time. The other thing is, I don't think anybody on this board was on the board back when we took out 10 custodial positions. That brought us from 102 positions down to 92 at that point. So it's been a battle ever since. That was kind of, like I have no fat right now. There's no way to pivot and cover for absences. I mean, there are some ways. We do them the best we can. We have been buying better equipment that's kind of a personnel saver. So that has helped, but it doesn't help necessarily in classrooms where most of the clutter is and the cleanup is. So what we did is we created a couple of float positions, and those are fill-ins. If anybody's out that night, there's always somebody out. And where they go. Sometimes they have to go to a couple different schools again, there's always people out in every other school. So I'd like to add another float positions. I have 2, it'd be great to go to 3. I talked about filling, how do we fill in? Well, there's a lot of overtime that goes in there. If there's an 8-hour shift that's been left vacant, we maybe throw 4 hours at it. At some point, they're already working an 8-hour shift, now you're asking them to work 12 hours, and you can't do that every day. They start to push back. So contractor services, this is one of the areas that did increase a fair amount. We don't have a whole lot of control over this. We've had increased our pest control, our access control, which is the security. This is for the equipment that we use. There's a licensing fee. The stage curtains. So at the 2 high schools, at the middle schools, you have big curtains, and some of the elementary schools as well. We have to flame proof those every 3 years. This is the 3rd year coming up. We bid out just last month the lining for the parking lots and the roadways. That went up. BDA, you say, what the heck is that? I believe it's a bidirectional antenna, but it's something that the fire department needs. So when they go into a school with their radios, in some cases, their radios, could not talk to each other. So as we've gone through schools, and particularly as we've done renovations, we've had these BDAs, and now we have to inspect them every year we have to take a look at them and inspect them. The only thing that really went down with the gym equipment inspections, and we've done a good job of staying on top of the equipment. I did say last year I was going to bring in my sexiest boiler picture. And these are the brand new, spanking brand new boilers at McCarthy Middle School. There's 2 on the right-hand side. Those are what I call conventional boilers, but the one on the left is a high efficiency boiler. It's all fueled by natural gas, and so the high efficiency boiler gets us through what we call the saddle seasons, so the spring and the fall. But when you get into the dead of winter, you really need that extra oomph from the other boilers. So I sidetracked myself. So one of the things that we have an HVAC maintenance line, and so that's going to stay about the same. We took off Elm Street, and then we added McCarthy. Oh, that's another Tara. She put that up there. Okay, under construction. So in my budget is something called major repairs. It's actually my buildings and grounds line. These are projects anywhere from usually $10,000 to $50,000. And we try to address these as best we can. And these are the projects that I have planned for this coming year. All totals about $90,000, which is the same it's been for the last couple of years.
I think we had $20 for,
Right, was.
Can you go back a
Missing a
slide?
K. I'd love a $20
Go
too.
back.
Go back one slide.
Wait, it's probably a K. It's-
20K, yes, there should be a 20K.
Come on, Crystal.
I made the correction on mine.
Stop messing with pictures and
Wow, I can't believe how expensive stage curtain hardware is.
Where are we?
The first one, $10,000 for curtains.
Yep, and there's torn curtains, and yeah, it's very expensive. We, where did we just replace some curtains? No, this was at a school, last fall sometime, we replaced some curtains, I think. It was probably elementary school, and just the, maybe, but just the curtains alone was $10,000.
Wow.
These things are not cheap, nothing's cheap anymore.
No, and so the just out of curiosity, because it's such a, it seems like a lot. These are the original like curtains that are 25 years old?
Yes,
All right.
we got our money's worth out of them.
And then the sunset height partitions, are those classrooms?
Yeah, so those are, I believe they're special education classrooms. They asked us to, I call it a partition wall. It's basically a wall to separate, divide a classroom into two, so you can have smaller learning environments.
Great,
Okay,
thank you.
another nice picture. So those are the air handlers at McCarthy Middle School again. So air handler is not just moving air in and out, but you're also having a tempering process where you're heating or cooling. You have filtration that's filtering all the outside stuff. And as you know, we've had Santa Life come in. Maybe I should filter the air some more. Santa Life has been installing the air filtration devices in our ductwork. So wherever we have a central air handling system, we've been installing those. They are in Birch Hill and Maine Dunstable this week to do the same thing. So our custodial equipment actually went down this year. We've been buying a fair amount. We're in a good position, so I decreased that. Also decreased the grounds line, so it was a 24% decrease. The big difference in the grounds equipment is we purchased a lawnmower last year.
Can I
And then we also get McCarthy a lawnmower through that process.
Oh, that's right. So they have one now too.
Yep.
On the Santa Life air purifying, whatever, light system, do we have any data on whether or not that's had any impact on the number of sick days kids or staff are taking in those buildings? Just 'cause I personally was very skeptical of the program, so I'm interested if there's any data.
Yeah, we just anecdotal information. I asked for the principals, I think a year ago, I asked them, okay, you've had it now for a year, what do you think? And there's been a slight decrease in absenteeism.
Okay,
Not statistically significant, though.
thank you.
Okay, so we've talked about whether the funding sources we have. So we have deferred maintenance. We have a backlog now of 15 million. We were asking 1.28 million for those projects. I believe you've seen all those before. The one change, kind of making the change today, I actually finally walked the tennis courts at the South High School. All the snow is off them. For the most part, it's off. There's some humongous cracks in that surface now. I mean, what was a hairline crack last time I looked is now that wide. So it's tough to play a good tennis when you have cracks right in front of you like that. So actually, with this year's budget, I think I can squeeze it and we can do the repairs this summer on those tennis courts, instead of having to wait till next year.
Do you think South can have their season, or will they need to share with North or borrow at like Pennachuck or somewhere?
I just alerted Lisa today about it,
So she'll
so we'll have to
decide.
have a conversation. Not all the courts are in that bad a shape, and some of them are still just hairline cracks. But there are a couple, there tend to be a crack, where the tennis net goes across. There's usually a big crack there for some reason. But the ball doesn't land there, so you don't really care that. It's the cracks that are in the court itself you have to be concerned about.
Right, frost heaves, man. Mr. Shaw?
Hi, sorry to interrupt, but I'm actually the tennis captain of the Nashua High School South team. So that's why I just wanted to butt in here. And I completely agree with what he's saying. The courts have been really, really hard to play on for the past few years. It's not a new thing. Last year, we've actually had matches lost because of the cracks in the courts. I think it's something that really needs our attention this year.
Yeah.
Can I just add one thing? The other nice thing, I think, if I was watching and I didn't have children in school is the courts are accessible off of school hours or when the season's over by anyone in the community. So you're not just paying for student athletes. I think you're paying, I know leagues play there. It gets a lot of use, unlike some of other, I don't know that Stellos is open to the public for pickup football or rugby or.
No, but I live down the road, and there's always people playing tennis here at North in the summer or walking the track or, I think our grounds of our schools and the playgrounds at the elementary schools are, used by the community year round. Ms. Daniels-Williams, I saw your light on. Did you have a question?
I'll save it. It is definitely a budget question about these tennis courts that we talked about last time in F&O, but I think it'd be better discussed on Saturday when we do the deep dive.
I'm not holding back, so don't feel like you have to. Mr. Shaw?
Yeah, I think one more thing I'd like to add, sorry. The last time that the board did something about the tennis courts, I believe was Searles Elementary, New Searles Elementary, or?
Those are park and rec courts, so the school board doesn't have anything to do with those.
Okay, well,
North High
anyways.
School, we redid those maybe 3 years ago.
North High School? Okay. But I just like to draw attention to that Searles Elementary School. Those courts are packed, man. They changed, I think, 2 or 3 of the courts to pickleball courts, and they have been, there's literally line waits every single day. I've gone to play sometimes. It's like a solid hour wait to get a game on. So I think improving the courts and increasing the, playability of them, it really helps show turnout, and yeah.
Yeah, I live up the street from New Searles, so I constantly hear.
Just on this slide, I think there'll be a lot more conversation. At the end of the month, we received the RFPs for our facility study, and so that work will be undertaken over the next 8 months. So this is what's currently looking at. We have $15 million currently in deferred maintenance. We're looking at another $1.2 million. Hopefully, again, that's the deferred maintenance line is something that the city gives us, anywhere from $100,000 to $500,000. Some years, I think in the last couple of years, we got $1 million 1 year, but those projects move around depending on needs. But I just want to remind ourselves that there is an RFP out there for a facility study that might actually reprioritize some of the projects going forward.
Thank you, Dr. Andrade. And then I'm seeing Amherst Street has some roof issues, but it's only, quote unquote, $125,000. And I know that a full roof replacement can be significant. Are we having damage to the building or leaking or interfering with?
Well, that's just the shingled roof. So as you're facing the very front of the school, the 1892 building.
Oh,
Right
okay.
in front of you, there's a small 1-story building on the left-hand side. I believe it houses the art programs.
Yeah,
So those are just old shingles. I want to stay ahead of it. And
got it. And there's also $15 million worth of other projects, maintenance type update projects that are in the queue that the city already is aware of. Yes, okay. Ms. Bishop?
The Dr. Crisp convert building automation, is that something that could be absorbed into whatever we're doing in JSSBC right now? Or did we close out that project?
It's pretty much closed out. Any monies that we have left over that are going to go to New Searles.
Okay.
We'll hear more about that.
So we'll stick with the facade stuff on that? Okay. I just figured if we're going to keep going with Dr. Crispin, we already have a bond open, we might as well.
Yeah, and it's for the city to decide how much they want to spend on all this, but that's probably the lowest priority of the ones I'm showing up there. The Stella Stadium is just recent. We just got the reports about a month ago. I think I already shared them with Joint Special. So the roof above the locker room really needs to be replaced. It's already leaking. The insulation, if you're familiar with how roofs are constructed, there's a layer of insulation before you get to the rubber membrane. That insulation's soaked.
Oh.
It's pretty bad shape. So I'm hoping the city will fund that. It's too much for the construction project to be able to afford that. We just don't have enough money left over to address it.
What happens if that continues? I mean, I would imagine that that's a problem for the seating that is above it and the students who are changing in the locker room. Like, that sounds like a safety
I
issue.
think so. It would just, everything's getting saturated. You get mold issues at a certain point. Yeah, it's a concern.
Okay. Ms. Lampier?
Well, I was going to ask about the Dr. Crisp line. It says convert building automation to N4. I don't really know what that means.
It's just so we have two vendors we primarily use. One is Siemens, the other one's Control Technologies. So N4 is Control Technologies platform. Siemens has told us that they are not supporting the stuff that's installed at this point.
Okay.
So we're slowly converting over to Control Technologies.
Okay. Since we were talking about the roof at Stellos, when did you discover that that roof was leaking so badly?
When it's not like it's people in the locker room are not feeling the rain fall on their heads. I don't believe it's that bad, but the insulation's certainly soaked. I found out about it when the assessment was done.
Okay.
Just got, February, I believe.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Can I,
We talk about roof, cost of roofing. We just got another report, which I haven't even shared with you yet, but replace the roofs at each high school, $6 million.
Yeah, see, that sounds more like what I was expecting based on the Birch Hill and Main Dunstable projects.
Yeah, so it's $6 million for each high school. Fortunately, those are down the road. We still have some life in these roofs, but it should be within our 6-year plan.
Right, and there's no state money for assistance right now for buildings, so.
right.
Yay. Ms. Bishop?
So I just want to clarify that this stuff, we don't decide what's getting done. The city decides which of these projects gets done. This is just what's on your platter. So when we're talking as a board about these projects, we have very little say in what actually happens because the city makes that decision, right?
Right, I presented to you anywhere from December to February in the past, and you yep, this looks
Yeah,
good to us.
go
and
ask
we'll
for it.
Go ask for it, yes.
Yeah.
So Thursday night, I'll be asking for it.
I just wanted to clarify that how much control we actually have over this.
The superintendent mentioned the facility master plan. We actually have received the bids for that. We received 5 very competitive bids. You have a high one and a low one, and then you have 3 that are very, very close. So I'm not sure if I'll get everything done I need to, but I'm hoping for the next Finance and Operations Committee, we can discuss that with you.
That was my follow-up question. Is that something that F&O and then the board decides, or is that something that goes to the JSSBC and the aldermen have an equal say in deciding?
It's the Board of Ed.
Okay. Great. All right. Oh, Ms. Daniels-Williams?
And because that was, I'm still stuck on this tennis courts thing because we just talked about this last month in F&O, and we said that it was good enough to do another project instead of doing this one. That's concerning to me because in 2 weeks, it hasn't even been 3. Is there anything that we say about that? Because we literally did another project with this money because we said that the tennis courts would be fine. Now they're not fine, but can we go back and not do the other project? Because like I said, they both were like not immediate needs, but things that were needed.
So the other project you're talking about was when we set aside money for the PA system and the Bell system at the two high schools. To dive into this one, 2 weeks ago, these tennis courts were covered with snow and ice. Couldn't see anything. I have not heard any complaints from the tennis programs at all. I never heard that you couldn't, some tennis matches get affected by the bouncing ball hitting a crack. That's new information. But I did walk the courts today, and there's some good-sized cracks in there, and they may have probably widened over the winter time. That's when it really happens, is you have the freezing and thawing. So that's the short answer of why we're making the change now.
And I would venture to say that if we do need to take a look at it again, the PA systems are a safety issue in case of fire or other emergency. As much as I care about tennis, and I did play tennis, I would rather our kids not get stuck in a classroom in a fire because our PA system didn't work. Mr. Shaw?
Yeah, I agree with that statement. As much as I love tennis, PA system should definitely take priority. Now, my question is more about when you said you talked to Ms. Gingras that maybe South wouldn't be playing at the South tennis courts for this season?
I alerted her that there were significant cracks in their surface this afternoon, actually.
Oh, okay, so it was pretty recent then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure she hasn't had a chance to go look at it herself.
Of course, yeah, no, and I don't
If you're
expect.
talking to your coach, have him go look at it.
Yeah. Just letting you know, if there's any more information you guys need on that or any more player input, do you have my contact? I can come give it to you after the session.
You know where the tennis courts are?
Yeah?
Little red buildings right next to them? That's where I
Yeah.
am.
Okay, then I'll
You can
come
walk
see
right
you.
across
Yeah.
the parking lot.
All right.
So, yep. Okay. Any other questions in this area? Other funding sources. So we've talked about, again, these don't affect your operating budget, but I feel somewhat compelled to talk about them again. So you know that Birch Hill Main D, that's almost done. We have a transformer and elevator to complete at Main Dunstable and site work at both schools. So you're familiar with the bus loop in front of the schools, the concrete curb that's falling apart and cracking in the asphalt and everything else. So those are all going to be dressed up. Security vestibules, we just talked about it. So we're looking to fund the new Searles security vestibule. We've had the estimates. This next joint special, we'll be getting the guaranteed maximum price from Harvey Construction to do the work. Alderman Dowd's working through the legislative process to identify funds. He's already identified the funds and talking to some of the other people in the city. So we have several million left over at the middle school project. So he's looking to transfer that over to this project.
And just to clarify for the people who don't go to the JSSBC meetings, the money that's left over in the bonds from the middle school project, the aldermen get to decide what to do with it. And it's not something that we can like add to our operating budget. It has to be spent on a big construction project, right? Because that's what the bond was for.
It takes legislative action to change it from one project to the other.
Okay.
So we just can't take middle school project and do other stuff with it. They have to do a legislative thing and vote on it and like they're planning to do with the security vestibule project.
Got it. And that's the money that, because the bond was for, I forget the total, it was like 165 million, I think, or 160 million. So that's the number of millions under budget we ended up when the project was completed.
Yeah, we have roughly, we've still got some invoices trickling in, but we have about 6 million left over. But they did not bond 4 million of that. So they had authorization to spend it, but they
didn't.
They only sold bonds for 6 million out of the 10.
Oh, got
So
it.
that's just going back to the city. It's like we really don't even have
We
it.
never even took it out,
But correct.
like a HELOC. Okay.
So there's yeah. So there is 2 million that's left over that will apply to this.
That's actually really good news that it was 4 million that we didn't even end up needing to borrow and then 2 million under. So I'm glad we mentioned that here tonight. Makes me happy. Ms. Lampier?
I just was wondering, the security vestibules How many schools are left that need to be done?
Just New Searles and Mount Pleasant.
Okay, thank you.
And last but not least, the Stella Stadium. So I just had conversation with the foreman for the company that's working for us. He'll be out there tomorrow. Just the westernmost 1/3 of the field is still covered with snow, but not very much. I looked at it this morning and it was about 60 degrees this afternoon or something. It was pretty warm. So I think next few days, the rest of the snow will be gone. They're hoping to get on there next Monday to finish their work. They still have about 3 weeks of work to do. And there's other stuff going on with the stadium. But I plan to take care of that in the summertime.
And I'm sorry, Ms. Gingras is not here anymore. When does the spring sports season start where students will want to be playing on that field?
You know?
Oh, Mr. Shaw knows.
Registration started today, so probably in a few weeks, I'm assuming. Yeah.
I say this
It's
as a
usually end
parent
of
who
March.
signed their kid up already, and I still don't know when practice starts.
I know, what's in the spring? Lacrosse is in the spring?
Yeah,
They usually have a round-robin tournament right at the end of March, I believe.
And baseball. Sorry, I didn't.
yeah, but baseball doesn't play on Stellos, so.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
This was before all the snow started flying, so you can see the turf is pretty much in place. The gray areas on either side, that'll also be covered with green stuff. So we're getting close.
I'm going to go back to this because I've forgotten the answer from JSSBC. Graduation has been scheduled for the second Tuesday in June, the 10th. And then, is it Tuesday and Wednesday or Monday and Tuesday? It doesn't matter right now. It will be at Stellos. What are we doing about the chairs and shoes?
Frisbees.
Because I remember very clearly that high-heeled shoes on that field and chairs are not awesome for it.
Frisbees.
Yeah, so there's covers for the chairs,
Okay,
so.
great. Thank you.
If I could carry on that, so we're at the next joint special, we're going to be bringing forward a purchase order recommendation. It's about $9,000 to buy the little platforms that the chairs sit on. So yeah, so we have a plan for that. We just haven't, and then the concession stands apparently not being used for concessions, so that's where they'll be stored.
Interesting. Mr. Claffey?
Just according to the North athletic website, baseball, yep. Yeah, most spring sports are going to start on March 24th.
Okay.
The track is March 31st, so.
So the Stella Sports will
weeks.
have to wait. They told me 3 weeks today
Okay.
for them to be finished.
Yeah, practice.
Great. Thank you for letting us derail you.
Plenty of
completely.
grass back there. They can get a little muddy.
Again, Thursday, we're going to capital program. They've told me you can just ask for funds for 3 projects. So the top 3 are deferred maintenance, which I've already shown you those. The bicentennial roof replacement, that's based on the assessment that was done. We've done all the repairs that we need to do for that school. That was paid with deferred maintenance funds. That will buy us 2 years. So I figure if I ask for the money now, by the time 2026, 27 comes around, then it'll be right on schedule. And then North High School. So we set aside $300,000 this year to do paving. I've discussed it with Public Works, the engineering office. We are going to participate in their program, use their contractors. They're going to do the paving from Broad Street and the circle all the way down to Sauhegan, which is a little development off to the right as you come in. And then the $300,000 will buy us, in fact, did I include it? No, I didn't. It'll get us through both the bus loop and the parent drop-off loop and back out. We'll not do the parking lots. So part of the request there is to, I'm approaching it 2 ways. They can continue to do deferred maintenance money and give us $300,000 a year, or then give us 1.7 and get it done. So I've opted to go, actually I have my hand out in both tiers. So we'll see where money comes in. You've seen this before, so McCarthy, it's just an example of capital project. We talked about capital equipment reserve fund. We did see the first truck there, we did receive just before the snow flew this winter. So it was perfect timing. And we approved the purchase of another one last summer. We'll probably get that in about a year. I've asked for, what you see, I've asked for another new sidewalk plow, another cargo van, and 2 supervisor vehicles next year. That's a whole different process, and you get involved when I actually want to purchase one, because part of the requirement is the supervising board has to agree with what you're purchasing.
The sidewalk plows, or the sidewalk plows, those are for like here and the actual grounds of the schools, not for the sidewalks up, like on Lead Street or whatever, up to the school.
Right, we work with Public Works. We do have some areas assigned to us. We have Broad Street, and we have here to the Hollis line. But for the most part, it's just around the schools.
Okay.
We have 2, one of them is currently down. Hopefully the snow will stop flying, so we won't need it for a while. Just to give you an update on solar, so we now have solar on 3, it's operating on 3 schools. We did install it at McCarthy. We're waiting for Eversource to approve the connection. They've had it for a month and a half, so I'm not sure how much longer they need it to make a decision, but we are pushing them a bit. And then there's others. You need a new roof before you put solar on the roof. So Birch Hill and Main D can take some solar. You can't cover it like we did other schools. It won't hold the weight for it. But there are sections that you can use. But if we do like the shingling of the administration building, that'd be a perfect place to put solar on top of. So I'm always looking for the next opportunity. And they actually so I put this in there, I wanted to see if the front office would let it stay in there, but I'm very much Irish, so it kind of fits.
It's lovely, and right before St. Patrick's Day, too.
And I have to,
Oh,
I was so impressed and touched that I shared this with my wife before I came here. She was moved. And it is my mother's birthday.
There we go.
Which, thank God you canceled the meeting that was scheduled for St. Patrick's Day. And it is my brother's birthday as well, so special I didn't wear green, you're a little early, I give you credit, I thought about it, but.
I had a nice Irish tie with shamrocks and everything, but it's overkill.
Erin, maybe we'll meet Monday afternoon or evening somewhere.
Any other questions?
yeah, Ms. Bishop and then Ms. Lampier.
Are we seeing any funding savings from the solar or any of the other energy saving things that we've put in, LED lights, all that, the new HVAC systems?
We are. It's, if you look over time, I go back 20 years, we have the data to do it. Our energy use is not gone up at all. I mean, you think about the additional schools, all the additional computers. In year 2000, this guy in the end here probably wasn't even alive. We added significantly to our electrical load in the schools, and yet our usage isn't going on because we've replaced all the lighting with LED and everything else. The solar is saving us about 25%.
Cool.
So part of the solar program is it's a purchase agreement. You're paying the company every month, but even after we pay them, we're still saving money. So it's definitely a good way to go.
Good. Thank you.
Well, that was my question too, so I don't have any more.
Great. Ms. Daniels-Williams?
I wanted to know where Mount Pleasant would be. Are we going to ask for something for that? I know that's been in your 50-year plan for the past 30 years. I didn't see it anywhere here other than where you mentioned placeholders for future school renovations. Is it something that we're thinking about for the Joint Special School Board?
So I don't know if the older members of the Board of Ed wanted to chip in here, but so a year, correct me if I'm wrong with the dates, about a year and a half ago, it was suggested that the school be closed, give or take. The Board of Ed at that point decided, no, we don't have enough information. Let's hold off for a couple of years. So I think that's where we are now, and I think this summer is the couple of years. I don't anticipate anybody in the city is going to fund a renovation until the Board of Ed tells them, yeah, we're going to keep this school, we want to keep this school. I mean, is that how you feel?
That's pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an aspect where we are looking for the facility study. We'll have a larger conversation on Saturday, quite honestly, looking at the budget again, where when we look at scenarios and potential savings, in full transparency, I think we have to look at the future of Mount Pleasant as a board. Not this year or for this year, upcoming years, again, and then use the data that we have to make informed decisions. So, in full transparency, it'll be a discussion item on Saturday on what's the future of Mount Pleasant.
Thank you for the conversation.
And also remember, the ad hoc committee outlined all of the projects that need to be done in the city, and they have a master plan that you can find it on their website, and Mount Pleasant is on there. It's on the first page, I think, in regards to everything, so you can take a look at that.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I was only asking because last year this time we had this same exact conversation and it was like, well, Mr. Smith, the 50-year plan, I just wanted to make sure that we had that conversation at your turn.
Yeah,
So thank you for just for the conversation. Like I said, I'm not asking for anything one way or the other, just knowing that we have the conversation. And thank you, Dr. Andre, for saying we'll have the conversation on Saturday.
So we have 4 schools that are in a queue for renovations. So when the time comes, it'll be up to the board to decide which one to proceed with the school administration. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Clap for Lisa. We clap for Lisa's book and her class that she wrote.
Dr. Rodriguez.
Doctor, this is new? Wow.
I think it's,
Not that new, like a year old. I'm gonna use
Well, congratulations.
updated numbers. Thank you.
No, I'm going to have to remember to say Dr. Rodriguez from now on. So thank you for coming to talk to us about the IT department. And I apologize, I don't know your counterpart.
I'm sorry?
But your partner in crime there, I don't know who she is.
exactly
This is Mrs. Chris Smith. She's the digital coordinator for the Nashua School District.
Okay, welcome, Ms. Smith.
Thank you.
So we're kind of partners in crime.
I meant that in the most tongue-in-cheek way possible.
No.
I think what you guys do is incredibly important, especially today. Our kids they have their one-to-one devices, and it's huge for them to have the access to the technology that they need in the real world.
Yeah.
So
It was, and that kind of starts off my story. Back in when Dr. Andrade was the assistant superintendent, before he left, we talked about, what is the future of IT, and one of the things that stuck with me during one of our last conversations is we were coming out of COVID, and we were just, thinking about one-to-one programs. And one of the things he said was, if we don't do things differently now, we'll never get it right. So this is the direction we're going. So if we don't do things differently now, we're never going to get it right. And I don't know if you remember that, Dr. Andrade, when we had that conversation but this is what we're doing. So, and it's kind of we're charting this path of IT and it being in every single aspect of the district. As Mr. Smith had, we're with an ELL, HR, curriculum. It's everywhere. It's like it's truly an integrated part of the district. So, and we're going to tell that story today. So what does IT do to support the district? So we support nearly 10,000 students, 1,000 staff. We currently have a one-to-one program for all of secondary. And this is really to emphasize our equitable access to digital resources and digital learning tools. And we do that through Chromebooks, and we're implementing interactive panels in the classrooms, and mobile devices for teachers. So kind of getting away from the desktops and moving towards devices where teachers can actually move with the students, interact with the students in that level. I will never proclaim to be a classroom teacher. Ms. Smith has taken that role, and she's the bridge between. She speaks the learning part, and I speak the tech part. So we do a better job of understanding what the needs are, and then we pave the course ahead. So, but with IT, it actually starts with a robust infrastructure, because you could have all these Chromebooks, all these panels, all these laptops, and it won't make a lick of difference if we don't have the infrastructure to support it. So, and that comes in the way of the networking components, how we connect to the internet, our core switches, which is how the internet comes through the buildings and how it goes out to all the users. So, and that's either done hardwired or wirelessly through wireless access points. And we try our best to make sure that our connectivity is as seamless as possible from area to area. We are an IT department. Things break, and that's why we're here to fix it too. So that's our support level. Our goals is to enhance our digital security and safety. So, and this is in the way of cybersecurity. As we all remember, a couple of years ago, we were the victim of a ransomware attack. So there's been a strong emphasis on what we do to safeguard our district. We're still working in the right direction to make sure that we're creating a safe and secure environment with compliant with that is with digital learning for our students and staff. So through strategic planning and collaboration, we work closely with all department heads and stakeholders and users within the district. We want to make sure that we're forecasting our technology needs for 3 to 5 years out, and how the budget is focused around that 3 to 5 years. So, and we do that by trying to maximizing our cost efficiency through E-rate program, which I will touch upon later on, which is kind of like a rebate that we get through certain purchases that we make for mostly networking and internet service providing. So this is what we do. And just kind of like give a visual of what this all means of my previous slide. It starts with the resilient infrastructure that's in the way of overall internet that goes in and out. So if we want to consume something, that's the internet coming in, and when we want to go out, that's the internet going out. So, and that's built upon an infrastructure of firewall that safeguards our internet, switching and routing, and disaster recovery in the time of a natural disaster or a full outage. This disaster recovery site at North helps us get back as quickly as possible, and that's through the way of backups or our backup internet pipe. With our software support, we support teaching and learning. Number one, kids have to learn. That's why we're here. We also support productivity, and that is in the way of our applications that are used for businesses that manage our money, human resources, and everything in between. So, and with safety and security, like I mentioned in our last slide, we want to protect students and staff to ensure that our assets, which are our most important assets beyond any computer, network device, or anything like that, students and teachers are our most important assets. That's above anything else. And we do that through our data privacy and through emergency notifications, where we work with plant operations and Chris Lassard through safety and security. So like I said, we're in every aspect of the district, and that includes safety and security as well. And we do this through our hardware support of devices, laptops for staff, cloud phone services, and bridging the digital divide. So I actually want to hand this part over to Ms. Smith, and she can talk about the bigger impact with equity and how we're going to become more ingrained with digital learning for the district.
Thanks, Greg. We began putting interactive panels into the school district at Birch Hill and Maine Dunstable about a year ago as part of the renovations. Interactive panels are just multidimensional. They allow, teachers to project like a projector would provide that same function, but then there are so many other levels for both students to interact with the technology both physically. They are touch. They allow for teachers to have the students using them actively, but also for students to be able to connect their devices to those panels and push up their work onto the panels. So it's been an exciting journey so far to be able to be part of creating professional development for the teachers and training the teachers on the use of the panels. We now have Charlotte Avenue, who they have a significant number of panels. Not all classrooms have them, but the core classrooms do. Those were just installed February break, and the teachers were trained 3 days after break, so they were up and running as soon as they were installed. They are interactive Google integrated panels, so they have full access to all Google applications on those. But we know that the district's direction has been to replace projectors with interactive panels as that need arises. They are slightly more expensive, but a ceiling-mounted projector is about $2,700 versus $3,400. They're not significantly more expensive, given that a projector can only project. There is nothing else that can do or provide. We know too, as Greg just stated, that we are starting to phase out those desktops for the teachers, leaving them with one device that they have in the classroom, their laptops. As we know, we have many online curriculums. That's what we have for many of the schools, and so putting the teachers in a position that should their laptop fail, the projector has full internet access and full access to those curriculums that allows them to have that ability to have a needed redundancy so that there is seamlessness in teaching and learning. Those are important things as we have talked about our commitment to make sure that we are not leaving the teachers in a place where they could be vulnerable and not be able to continue teaching and learning as they need to. So when we look at the budget moving forward, we are fortunate that our Title I schools will be receiving interactive panels come April vacation. That is going to be a significant rollout in the spring. And the focus then we'll be looking at on Saturday is what do we have left, and this is in our elementary schools, so what do we have left in a commitment to keeping equity in our classes and in our schools a priority. So we will look at the numbers for that at that time.
Thank you. I also don't want to underscore the work that Ms. Smith has put into providing panels and training to teachers and staff across the district. Truly a pioneering effort by Ms. Smith in the district to do this. Honestly, if we didn't have her to do this training, I don't think it would have been done. It's great to have technology in the classroom, but how to use the technology and using it effectively is different. We could put all the technology we want in there, but if we don't use it correctly, we're not doing our teachers service at all. So, yep, mass credit to you. So, so when we're talking about equity, and this is just to talk about the panels a little bit more. So, we are fortunate enough to get a grant for Title I to put panels in the classroom. So we're figuring it's going to be a full implementation for Amherst, Birch. Charlotte was a different funding source through Casino Night, I guess. I don't know.
Charitable gaming.
Charitable gaming, yeah, we'll call it that, yeah. And Dr. Crisp, Ledge, Maine Dunstable at McCarthy Middle School, those are all full implementations. So partial implementations, and this is from Title I, is for Fairgrounds, Mount Pleasant, and Sunset. And we have projectors in all classrooms in Fairgrounds and Pennachuck. So we're looking at 75 remaining core elementary classrooms to implement panels. We have one-to-one Chromebooks for all grade levels. Secondary students bring home their Chromebooks, so that's from 6 to Sixth and ninth graders get new Chromebooks every single year, and they keep that Chromebook throughout their time at that level. So if a sixth grader gets it, that device is retired in their ninth grade year, or eighth grade year, and then ninth grade gets theirs retired when they graduate. So elementary, and I really want to emphasize, this is what an ideal classroom would look like, right? We want this to be the ideal classroom for students, so we can have that equitable access to technology in every classroom, not just elementary schools or high schools or middle schools. Equitable across the board. So, because we want that seamless transition through each grade level. And each teacher now has a laptop, so again, we want to promote that flexible and mobile learning and instruction. So each classroom also has a wireless access point for seamless wireless use. Just pivoting a little bit to what I mentioned before with our E-rate services. So every year, when we identify projects that have to do with our internet, whether that be our what we pay for right now through Comcast, or like our network switches, our access points and all that. So these are considered network infrastructure projects, and this is related to schools and libraries to ensure that we have equitable access to technology. And this is the determination of our reimbursement through this program is dependent on our free and reduced lunch statistics. So right now, the district gets 60% back for every project. So if we were gonna spend $100,000 on a eligible service, we only pay $40,000, and then we get a rebate that's covered later in that year after it determines that it was purchased, that it's in use, and that it's implemented correctly within the school, within that time frame. So it actually has to go through a fair bidding process through an RFP that goes out between the months of early February to mid-March. So our window is actually coming up in a week and a half. We have currently a bid out right now for our contracts and licensing for our Cisco devices, which provide our access points and switches, along with our firewall. So those are E-ratable services, and we'll be getting a reimbursement back for the full cost of that. But it's important to know that we are redirecting those funds for other purposes too. So when we get that rebate back, what are we doing with them? So we're identifying that through the needs of the district at the time, whether it be digital learning, other projects that need, if we need more devices or laptops, these are the things that we're going to be paid for as a result of these rebates through E-rate. So what are our funding priorities this year? We want to continue to support Chromebooks for our one-to-one. That's first and foremost. Outfitting our interactive panels for core elementary classrooms, always maintaining our current network and systems infrastructure. That's what keeps the lights on. That's what keeps everything going. This is why we're able to broadcast out to the city right now, is through our IT infrastructure. All right. Computer software, and this includes productivity, safety, and security, maintaining our core switches and our next generation firewall, and stuff breaks. So we have to buy parts and continue to do our break fix parts for that. I use parts a lot right there. So.
Can you speak a little bit about what we're seeing, or if we've had any changes over the last few years as we've switched to the one-to-one? Because I remember when we first started rolling out Chromebooks for kids, there was a lot of overhead costs, and then there was a lot of breakage costs. Has that changed at all over the last couple of years?
We have noticed our repairs have gone down. I wouldn't say, because when we were during COVID times, we were at 21% loss, and that includes damages and lost devices. We are hovering around 10 to 15% right now. It really depends on school. So I don't want to say one schools are worse.
Right. No, I don't want to point
Yeah.
fingers at individual
Yeah.
schools. I'm just wondering if kids have
There's more of a sense of ownership.
adjusted as they've become accustomed to what the caretaking needs are for these devices.
There is more of a sense of ownership with the schools, with what we've seen this year, with students getting their devices and keeping it through the 3 years. So that's good. It's like, this is your device, this is assigned to you, and you're gonna continue to hold this device for your tenure at your school. So yes, there has been a reduction. So even if it's 5% for us for loss across 6th grade levels is a significant amount of money. So that includes parts and purchasing of new Chromebooks. So there has been an improvement, I would say.
Mr. Shaw?
Yeah, real quick, I'd like to know, does every student gets a Chromebook, right?
Every student from 6 to 12 gets an assigned Chromebook for them. So in the classrooms at the elementary levels, there's a cart per room or Chromebooks per room that equal the amount of Chromebooks that should be at the school that they are using at every level, yes.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. But I also know that there are a lot of families in New Hampshire that afford better computers and laptops for their children. My question is, why are we giving Chromebooks to those students like myself? I'll be honest, I don't use my Chromebook. Why are we giving Chromebooks to those students that have a better laptop and aren't going to use the Chromebook anyways? To me, I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but that sounds kind of like a, you know.
Oh, Mr. Posca and I discussed this when we came up with the Chromebook policy at length. So, Mr. Posca, I think a lot of it has to do with some of the, like, there are some tests and some things that you can only access on the Chromebook.
That's exactly right. I don't want to steal anyone's thunder down there, but I think it's for equity purposes. That's first and foremost. I think Dr. Rodriguez and Ms. Smith were talking about that, but also for a lot of the testing that we do, you know, at the high school, the middle school. You know, Dr. Rodriguez, his team is able to push some things out through the Chromebooks for those testing purposes that we can't do with some of the personal devices that were brought in. So, you know, certainly to your point, you know, it is great that you bring your device to school every day and utilize that on a regular basis. So 98% of the time, that's gonna work great for you. But on those, you know, instances when we have some common assessments that might be done, you know, maybe through, you know, SAS or through formative or some of those things, we control those devices and we can, we want our students to take them on our district-owned devices. Dr. Rodriguez, Ms. Smith, if I missed anything there?
Go ahead.
I would just add that the Chromebooks are supported by Deladeo, which is allowing the teachers to have the ability to lock down those Chromebooks on the assessments with that particular software, and they're not able to do that if you're using your personal device for that. So it's the assessments themselves, but also because they're supported by IT, we have for data security and privacy, all of the apps that are on those Chromebooks are all deemed and controlled by the school district. So it really is equity, but it's also for data security and privacy.
Dr. Rodriguez, on that note for security and privacy, what about access to materials? So like on my home computer that my child uses, the home laptop, we have parental controls so that they can't just go off and use anything that they want and look at things that we might feel is not appropriate.
Yep.
Do the school Chromebooks have anything like that, or the school system, to make sure that kids are, you know, I don't know, not sports gambling in the middle of class?
Yes. So, short answer, yes. So we have, part of the Child Information Protection Act, which is called SIPA, we have to be compliant with that. And we have to do that through content filtering, which is Deladeo, which is what Ms. Smith was referring to. So we have two different sources that actually prevent content that is malicious from reaching the student. So gambling, pornography, violent acts, racial related. That is blocked at the Deladeo level through the software, and that happens when students bring them home. So if we didn't provide protections or content filtering for those devices, we would not be SIPA compliant, breaking the law, and we would not qualify for E-rate services. So it's highly important for us to spend you'll see $38,000 to get a return of, 60% of whatever our big networking project is. That's second. First is protecting the students. So, and our second one, if Deladeo were ever fail and the students are on campus, our firewall does the exact same thing. So it'll protect it's kind of like the second layer of defense in depth of what we do to actually filter the content for the students.
Gotcha. So parents can feel comfortable that their kids aren't using their school-issued Chromebook for nefarious purposes at school.
100%, yep.
Yeah. And to just go,
I'll just go 1, 2, 3.
sorry, and just to go a step beyond what you said, I'm sure if you search up Snapchat on your phone right now, which is not a school-issued Chromebook, it won't allow you to go on it because it's protected by the Wi-Fi too, I'm pretty sure.
So that's a firewall that's protecting that. So that's part of our guest policy. So that whatever we dedicate through our guest policy, getting through there is certain social media is blocked.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd like to come back to that point because I know there's a lot of free websites and teaching platforms that also do lock your screen, like the SAT, that, what do you call it? Stop you from, like the teacher can see if you went to another tab or if you used AI. There's a lot of other things, but I don't want to take up any more time right now. I mean, we have a 4-hour session on Saturday, which I'm sure we can talk more about it then.
Great.
Ms. Lamper had her hand up, Ms. Bishop has her light on, and Mr. Claffey had his light on, so we'll do 1, 2.
Yeah, my question was just about the Chromebooks on this next page. It says 1,748 Chromebooks need to be purchased this year. That's what is the cycle for replacing all the Chromebooks in the district?
So for grades K through 5, we base it off of a different formula in that. So a few years ago during my budget presentation, we talked about auto expiration policy. So Google only sends out updates to Chromebooks to a certain point. So it's kind of like a Windows 10 to 11, they're not going to be updated after a certain point. So Google does the same thing. So for the elementary schools, we're seeing that cycle is going to be in 2029. So, and those are still in relatively good shape. What helps us with the elementary school Chromebooks is that they're not brought home yet. If we ever decide to move in that direction, they're not being brought home. So they experience a lot less wear and tear. Elementary, I have two kids. One of them was in elementary school. One of them just started middle school. They're a little clumsy, so we want to make sure that we're still safeguarding our devices, because the more damage we face, that's the less opportunity that a student has to actually use that in the classroom. So, but our refresh cycle for our secondary students in grades 6 and 9 receive a new Chromebook every year, and they keep that Chromebook through 6 through 8, and then it's retired, and then from 9 to 12. So that formula is based on enrollment plus a percentage after, because we do include damages and loss.
Oh, so they're all brand new laptops. I had this weird idea that people turned their laptop in and then you like refurbished it and sent it out to somebody else again. That doesn't happen.
We did do that for a while. Yeah, that was the way we did it, and but. Through, I will say, Herculean effort to put things together and put things in place. But we're still figuring it out too. And I don't want to say we've got the right everything processed. We're still refining it. Even how we actually check out Chromebooks we're still building the plan as we go. It's not a new thing, but it's kind of still new to Nashua. So like I still want to like emphasize that we're still working on some of the kinks and ironing all that out. So, but again, it's a lot of this is Miss Smith's brainchild, and it's working well. So, like, I'm forever grateful to have her as a partner in this. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Ms. Bishop?
The more I think about my question, I'm wondering if you're not the right person to ask, but I'm wondering, I love technology. I don't like it for myself. I don't know how to use it. I just tried to delete like 3,000 emails because that's how I do things. Learning how to use technology today with students, then going into college and becoming adults, there's a responsible way of using technology. Are we seeing that by giving the kids the one-to-one Chromebooks, that they're being taught in school how to use technology appropriately? So not being in class and watching Netflix or being on Snapchat, but learning how to use technology appropriately and what essentially will be a professional way of using technology, which I think is an important skill to teach kids.
It's an excellent question. I think that from the elementary standpoint, our TIAs have done a lot of work with digital citizenship, but it has also carried into our core classrooms, and it's really just integrated into the culture of just being good humans, right? And that part of that is responsible use of technology. I will say that the schools at the secondary level have done a phenomenal job with supporting this infrastructure that we've put in place. It's not just, right, the decrease in damage is due to having ownership for students, that they're keeping that same Chromebook from year to year makes a difference. Instead of just getting somebody else's that maybe didn't take as good care as they did, they're incentivized to keep it in really good shape. But those administrators are also pursuing, right? Calling families if there is damage and talking to students, and if there's discipline issues connected to that, all part of that system. So, and the teachers in the care and the updates and teaching them how to do those things in preparation for testing, all of those pieces are part of the whole system that we're still in the infant stages of, but really have gone leaps and bounds in just another year.
Right. I would say too, going on that, the accountability piece is huge with this. Like, students are being held accountable. They have to sign a responsible user guide. We call it a RUG, or an acceptable use policy. But that's part of it. That's the contract they sign, whatever. But it's building upon that. As you know, we do have outliers. Students do, you know, treat technology awfully, you know, and they do try to get around our things. But
That's what kids do.
that's what kids do. I appreciate the you know, the inquiry part of that. You know, if you're finding a way around it, we had a couple of conversations with some students early in the year. Use your powers for good. Like, be Spider-Man. Like, that's what we had to tell them. It's like, you're going to be a really, you know, expensive person to hire in the future if you keep thinking like this and out of the box. But while you're here, there are rules you must abide by. So like that's what we tell the students, you know, and that's really goes to the partnerships we have with principals at the and the teachers. So, you know, I want to emphasize that although, you know, our damages and incidents have gone down, like that, it does start at a digital citizenship at a younger level.
Yeah, just anecdotally, if you'll allow me, I feel like before, and we do before COVID and after COVID, but before COVID, I feel like I would have a house full of kids and their friends would be hanging out and they'd all be on their phones doing phone stuff and sitting next to each other and would be like, just like connect with each other. I feel like them being on a computer all day at school, when they're at my house in the afternoon, there isn't a screen in sight. They're so sick of this that they're just like dying for that human connection. So I think by having kids kind of live the same way adults do in front of these horrible screens all day long, is I'm seeing it that they're outside more. They're probably getting into trouble, but like they're hanging out with their friends more. They're doing more things is what I'm finding. I could be an outlier, but I've actually been thankful for the amount of screens in school, because then they come home and they sit down for dinner and talk.
Ms. Raymond, if I could just add on to Ms. Bishop's comment, I think there's a time and a place for technology in the learning environment, and it's not all devices all the time. There's an appropriate time to use a device, and there's also time to collaborate and interact one-to-one. So I think we're starting to find that balance more and more, and utilizing those devices when it's appropriate for the education, and then interacting with, in a more one-to-one or small group manner when that's also appropriate.
Mr. Claffey?
Thank you. I've been subbing in Lowell and Chelmsford this is my third year, and they've had panels. I think, is Clear Touch the same as interactive panel? So I know they've had them for at least 3 years, and I've been trying, I think Chelmsford has had them for more because they added sound bars later. So I really hoping to hear Dr. Scarpati's voice, because if you don't mind me bringing up your previous experience, did your teachers have the Clear Touch? And if so, did they find them useful?
Yes, we've had them it's been about 3 or 4 years since we had them installed at the school that I have been working at. And I don't remember what we did before we had them. Teachers use them across the day, in specialist classes as well. They really do give a nice interactive piece for students to be able to engage with them interactively, for teachers to be able to pull up their lessons and visuals, which really support the instruction, especially for our English learners, has been a really powerful piece as well. The document cameras hook right in, so you can, bring up your work, show it right there, everyone can see it. So they really have been a valuable tool.
So I think we're kind of behind the curve on that. I mean, when I walked in the first day I subbed, I said, when I was a teacher, we had maybe one projector for 25 teachers on a cart. You had to sign it out. You had to find the form. You had to get the cart. I mean, I lost a lot of curriculum, a lot of class time setting it up. I had a wire that was about 20 feet long that connected from my laptop to the cart. So, and from a sub's perspective, it's great because I can come on, turn it on, or I can put the lesson plans for the day. The teachers post their work. So I don't know why it took us so long to do this other than
Money.
I was just going to say.
Money.
But we had ESSER money, and I guess we spent it on other things, but,
I think just along.
no, I'm not pointing fingers, but
I think,
holy cow.
I think we spent a significant amount of ESSER money on technology.
So I think really where the last couple of years, and, kudos to the team and the district technology committee, is really we're establishing a vision. So as Mr. Rodriguez or Dr. Rodriguez mentioned earlier, like the first couple of slides, what's our infrastructure? What's our vision of where we're going? What does every classroom look like? I don't know if we were crystal clear on what every classroom will look like. We've been working with Crystal, to be crystal clear, what's our 5-year kind of plan on what can we afford when, because it's nice to think about what the standard classroom looks like, but we need to fund it. So I think we're getting a little better at what's our technology plan over the next couple of years. And I think that's part of the reason is sometimes money came in so fast and there wasn't a district approach. I think there was more building approaches.
I think that's fair. I would love to request that at some point the board be able to see some of these panels in action. I went to Sunset Heights had received an award, and there was an interactive, we toured some special ed classrooms, and there was an interactive game on the screen that some of the students were playing. And there were nonverbal kids who were doing math by interacting with this. It looked really fun. And everybody was smiling, and it was a really cool experience. So if we could see a little bit more of what they do, I think it would help us as we're talking about like what to spend money on.
What I would like to add on the Clear Touches is that they come with a software called Chorus, and that is to create those UDL-designed content mastery activities that teachers can create. There's a whole community of those activities that teachers can go grab another teacher's, edit it to their heart's content, and have multi-modes of representation for those students so that we're meeting diverse needs of all of our learners. There is no subscription on that software, so it's for the life of the panel. And so really, with our commitment on having that continuity and not having something run out, right? And having a subscription that we couldn't afford to maybe re-up in a certain year and losing that continuity. ClearTouch really has, a complex but very interactive base that allows for students to really, really interact with it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when you guys first pitched the idea of putting some of these in the elementary classrooms like Birch Hill as part of the renovation, I'm old school. I'm like, seriously, whiteboards aren't enough. We were just talking about whiteboards 5 years ago when we started the middle school project. Like, why do we need these interactive breakable things? And it really wasn't until I saw students interacting with them and the difference it was making in the classroom environment that the light bulb went on about why this is a valuable investment for making sure we meet kids where they're at.
So I do want to bring it back a little bit, and Dr. Scarpati, I supported your school when I was a tech for Amherst. We did have things similar to this. They were called Eno boards back in the day. So, and they were interactive things that the teachers used. They didn't work too well, but they were in there and they were used in the classroom. So I don't think we were behind. I just don't think we kept up with it. So like we saw that it was a significant investment. There was a lot of upkeep for those. These interactive panels have a significantly less upkeep to them. I think you can actually don't quote me on this, taking a baseball bat to them, and they're Yeah, let's not do that, but they're that durable is what I'm trying to say. So it's like, if if there's some violence done to the device, chances are it's not going to be hurt as a result of it. So they're much more durable and they work quite well.
May I ask a related question to the panels? When and where will we fund the training for the elementary teachers who will be getting these? Where in the budget will that be?
The training will be done by me. I have implemented the training so far for all of the schools to date. I go in and I train the staff in multi-sessions, but I get them often started on the basics as a group, and then I differentiate my training depending on the tech comfort level of the teachers in front of me. I
So are these
usually do it by
after
grade.
school or during the school day?
So the administrators have been giving coverage to the teachers to come in, and I've been teaching them during the school time, so it hasn't been after school. Clear Touch has also offered their own training, so it could be when we have many schools coming and having implementation at one time, we may utilize the days that we still have owed to us, through the McCarthy implementation or installation of those panels, to be able to have me doing training and Clear Touch trainers helping to do the training as well. We have also surveyed teachers in the past to say what works for you. Sometimes teachers would prefer to come before school or after school, purely voluntary, to make sure that we're aligning with the contract. Others would like to do it during plan times. Others say no plan times, no before school, no after school, I want coverage. So it's good to know what the school and what the teachers actually want ahead of time, and then we honor that.
So, excuse me, one last question. The timetable, so they're going to be purchased roughly, assuming we approve this, when will they be in the classrooms? And then when will I guess I'm worried that they're going to come in, say, at the beginning of the school year, but not in time to start the year, and then they're going to sit there until the teacher gets trained. So do you see a kind of a chronology? We get them, they're in place, and then teachers get training.
So purchases obviously after July 1st, so it's part of the operating budget. So as soon as that happens, like the work can get started to get these into classroom and spaces. So as part of the cost per panel is to set up and include it on a mobile stand. And then we do our part as an IT department to enroll and can have a certain set of settings so they connect to the Wi-Fi. So they're there, they'll be in the classroom and ready for the start of the school year. So barring any supply chain issues, I will say that.
Or tariffs.
Or
yeah.
tariffs, whatever, yes.
I would speak to the McCarthy implementation, where those didn't come in until the summertime as well. We had panels shipped over to North. I created a training room ahead of time. We gave 6 hours of training to each of the teachers before the building was finished. And then I did another week of training once school started, because of course then there was time, lost during the summer and wanted a refresh. So again, there's some flexibility there, no pressure on a teacher, but with all of the panels that are in the district now, I can certainly offer training in the summer that's voluntary at McCarthy. That would allow teachers to come in, because some teachers do have, get anxious and want to have that all behind them before they start school, and others not so much. So it's really fine. Whatever the teacher wants, we can make that work.
Can I just, go ahead.
Thanks. Thank you, Dr. Andrade. I was just looking at the layout here, and it says Fairgrounds Elementary and Sunset Heights are going to have partial implementation, and Fairgrounds Middle and Pennachuck are going to have still projectors in all classrooms.
Yes.
So that's what you guys are hoping for this year is.
So I'll start off with Fairgrounds Elementary and Sunset Heights. So that's part of the Title I grant. That was it was determined that 13 panels, I believe, are going into Fairgrounds and 10 are going into Sunset Heights. So that's the partial implementation in there. So that's there. And then JSSBC, which was part of the middle school projects, it was decided, 4 years ago, I want to say 4 or 5 years, that projectors were going to go into the middle school levels then. And then when Dr. Andrade came, he's like, let's go interactive panels. They're better for teaching and learning. So that's why McCarthy, it was kind of like the starting point for clear touch. So that's why those are in there. So that's why we have those devices, and it's kind of different in that area. However, there's still devices in those classrooms at Fairgrounds and Pennachuck. So just not interactive panels. So that's the direction we thought we were going, and I think that, you know, goes into a 4 or 5 year plan of the foresight that we didn't have that now we do have. Yeah.
So I just want to thank you, Greg, just along the 4 or 5 year kind of where we need to be. As we'll discuss on Saturday, we have a tight budget coming up, and we're going to have to make some decisions. So this is the optimum of, this is where, you know, if we wanted to put in 75 clear touch panels, but this will be a topic on Saturday on if we need to meet the 3% request from the mayor. This would be an area that we would actually look at on how do we reduce it, and then what's a 2 to 3 year plan to get clear touches in those classrooms. So again, it's this is the idea right now, but again, I think I just want to be really clear. This would be a bucket 2 kind of priority, as opposed to making sure we're like a bucket 1 on our tier 1 instruction and high quality resources. ELL special education is all going to fall in bucket 1. And then the clear touch panels would be in a bucket 2 when we start prioritizing on Saturday.
I think we have a question over there.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Shaw.
Yeah, sorry. I just had a question for Mr. Andrada. I was speaking with Ms. Lamphere a minute ago, and we were talking about how much we would have to cut from the budget. Do you have a number for that?
Yeah, I mean, right now, we're looking at if we want to meet the mayor's request, it's a 3% increase. If we have our current budget and the Board of Education, just if you look in your budget book that was passed out last week, it's about close to a 6% increase.
Wow.
So every 0.5% is about $600,000. So we're going to have a conversation on if we're at close to 6% right now, we need to have a discussion, and we'll make some scenarios on it's close to $3 million on how much we would have to cut from this budget.
We're going to have to make some tough decisions.
We're going to have to make some tough decisions.
Absolutely.
And I just want to chime in on that. I'm grateful that we're doing these presentations so that we can understand everything that's being brought to our students and that comes out of our buildings. I think it's important for us to understand everything that's offered to our students in every capacity, so that we have the gravity when we come to make these decisions and be able to do them with some respect and dignity. But how many more presentations do we have, Heather?
3 more.
So yeah, I was wondering if we need a hard stop tonight and then to put some of them later, if some of them are perhaps shorter than 45 minutes to an hour. Because I don't know how
Everyone's already
people
here.
who are supposed to be at work at 7 a.m. tomorrow, how late they can go this evening.
So I know the special education, we had a nice discussion last night, so I think that's going to be a quick overview. And Mr. Chopa? Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure nobody wants to come back again.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can go through the.
Well, we have questions
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that's who we are
absolutely.
as people. And
Yeah.
I'm sure the public has questions even though
Absolutely.
they're not here. So
And real quick, I'm sorry. Just know that for everyone on the board and all the people in the stands, I am taking notes right now on everything that, all the budget proposals, and I will be asking the students at Nashua South, and I'll tell Shake to ask the students at North, so we get a really good student perspective on what is most important and what we can cut out. Sorry.
All right.
okay,
So,
thank you.
yep. These next slides are absolutely tier 1 to keep the lights on for the district. So the computer supplies, these are parts that we purchase every year to repair all our devices across the board, whether that be Chromebooks, laptops, some desktops, fax machines, and Amplifiers. These are devices that we purchase every year to keep things running. And we go to contract services. This is what keeps the blinkies going, as we see in our network closets. And through these absolute necessary contract services, this is what keeps us going and keeps us safe. So these are crucial to our whole system, our whole infrastructure, to keep things going year after year. With our educational and business-related software, so these are non-technology related. These are more for everybody else in the district that gets absorbed within the technology budget. This includes transportation. This includes our website. This includes our Destiny Instant IQ, which is inventory management system. Naviance, which is used by guidance. I'm not going to go through everyone, but this is what other departments with a little bit of IT uses on a day-to-day basis, including our budgeting software. So this takes up a large portion. And this is our non-education, I would say education with a caveat because we do have some education stuff in there, but these are our non-really education software, so that really aren't part of our curriculum, but are used, district-wide. And this slide includes our software that is for our network systems and security. So I broke it off into two, even though it has the same budget item 71228. This is what we use for our email filtering, our endpoint antivirus, Deladeo, which is our content filtering, Microsoft licensing, and our Fortinet firewall. So the previous slide was in green right there. That signifies E-rate services, so services that we can E-rate that we will get a rebate on. And office supplies, just because, we need pencils and pens and paper and all that stuff. Professional development, because IT is ever changing. Just like teachers, we have to keep up with the trends, whether that be security, how to do things within Microsoft, because they're changing everything as well. We have to keep up with our learning as well. And some of us attend conferences. We go to MassQ every year, so we learn about what's going on in the ed tech space, cybersecurity, and in just regular technology. We also have seasonal help with our new teacher orientation assistants. So we have, the past few years, Jennifer Campo, who is a technology integrator for the high schools, has been instrumental in our new teacher orientation and helping out the secondary folks, learning how to set up their classrooms and really being one of those first faces that they see with technology. These are the necessities and nice to have wish lists. So as we move forward with this budget, our goal is to maintain and upgrade and support the district for the next 5 years. We have a large core switch upgrade that runs all our internet, goes through South High School, and then it's dispersed throughout there. That switch was put in 2018 or 19, I believe, and that's becoming end of service. So end of service means it doesn't receive any more updates, which is crucial for security purposes and functionality. Equipment refresh for our Chromebooks and laptops. Security and safety, I lumped them into one because safety just on cybersecurity is not enough. We also have to, improve our security within our, physical security within our district, and that includes emergency notifications. And then to encompass it all, our equitable access to technology, we need to fulfill the ideal classroom. That's especially in our core elementary classrooms by the end of the school year. And our, again, nice to haves, part of this is outfitting all classrooms with the interactive panels, and this includes ELL, UAs, and special education, and having a heat map for our wireless. So some spots in the schools are a little more dead than others, but we can figure out a way through a heat map where we actually go around from room to room, find the power levels and determine what access points need to be tuned so wireless is actually better, because we are becoming increasingly more dependent on wireless technology. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Ms. Daniels-Williams had her light on.
I have a question, and I know the doctor probably knows that is the same question I ask every time he presents. Can our buildings handle this? Is this, we've had a couple conversations over this last year about we do these upgrades, but our buildings can't handle it. Mm-hmm. And so then we have to retroactive fit, which we were just talking about the tennis courts and all that kind of stuff. That's all interactive. I just want to make sure that we have, at budget season, done our just due. We can't provide for everything.
Yep.
But again, if we do this, is there anything else that's going to have to be done crucially this year? Because I ask the same question every time.
I think it's a great question because of the last 6 years, we have done an entire overhaul of our networking and systems infrastructure. Before I came, our network switches were 15 years old. Through, I don't want to say the fortunate money from COVID, but the circumstances allowed us, and this is what the ESSER funds was going for. We had to upgrade our infrastructure. At every single piece, we upgrade our infrastructure, whether that be fiber running throughout the buildings, our fiber connections, our patch panels, our closets. Every piece of infrastructure in this district was touched, and it was not just touched, it was upgraded and fixed. So that gave these access points that you see right here, we used to only allow 30 devices per access point. That was just a limitation of the device. Now it's 100 plus at the highest speeds at Wi-Fi 6. So this is the work that we've done. This is what we've architected, and this is what we've done to make things better, not just for us, because whatever, like we're a 16-person department. This is for the 12,000 users in the district. This is what we wanted to accomplish because, like I said, we are in every single part of the district, every single portion. Whether we like it or not, it's like we are. We have to make sure that our infrastructure is sound. I would say we do well 98% of the time. Because things go down, it happens. They're machines. But we have people on staff who can fix it, and if we don't have the answer, we call support to have that fixed. So. That's just where we are, and the work that we've done. Like, I am more than happy to toot my horn and toot my team's horn on what we've done for the district in terms of like our infrastructure, our backup systems, and our overall environment.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chopa? You bringing the team down? Yeah.
I brought somebody, so you can bring them. That's how I feel. Let me see. Yeah.
I can get up.
Excuse me, are we gonna do 3 more presentations today, or are we splitting it up?
So that was the survey that I took 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, this one won't be very long.
While they're setting up, are you still in the, so looking at the policies, and I know you're an expert on policies, the budget committee has a 3-hour limit, and a vote is needed to extend it, correct?
Yeah, so if we go past 9, we have to talk about
But
it.
the policy says 5 minutes before that 3-hour limit is hit, someone says, we need to extend, right?
Yep,
Okay.
that's why I was asking if they had a hard stop, like,
But don't we have to, I mean,
Yeah, we
I'm
have
not
to
on
ask.
policy, and I know you're the,
so based on our current policy, we have to have either a consensus or a vote. If I say, does anyone have any objections, and everyone's like, no, that's fine, that counts.
it does.
Yeah,
Why does it say you need a 2/3 vote?
because if everyone says they don't have a problem, that's more than 2/3.
That counts, that's math. Are you guys ready?
Math.
Now I learned something new.
So I think we're okay, but I have been paying attention to the time, and that's why I had asked if anything seemed like it was going to be an hour-long presentation, that we wouldn't have time for it. So I appreciate you guys hanging out and bearing with us, and I'm just going to turn it over to Mr. Chopa, Ms. Booten, and another person whose name I don't know. I'm so sorry.
Erin Putnam,
Erin Putnam.
And
Welcome,
what's your
Ms.
role, Ms. Putnam?
ELO coordinator.
Oh, I probably knew your name, and I've just forgotten it. I apologize.
All right, our presentation is going to be a little bit different.
everything in this presentation that it's going to impact the budget, it's all focused on the concerns that the Department of Justice has raised with our compliance agreement. So we'll start out with just some general information about the program, and then we'll get into the compliance agreement and how that could impact some budget issues. Our program, as you'll see, there's a growth chart coming up. The program has really grown in the last couple of years. We've got over 2,000. Now, this number is not static. Our population's pretty mobile, but at a point in time, we were over 2,000. I think we're right around, maybe a little under now.
2015.
Okay, 2015. Of those, 1720 are considered active, which means those are students who require services from an ELL teacher if their parents did not decline those services. So when a student is determined to be eligible for English language learner services, parents have the option to accept services or decline them. So once they are identified, they become active students, and they remain so until they test out as proficient on the access test. And once they do test out as proficient, they become monitored, which we have those 312 students, and those students are monitored, meaning the teachers, us, we keep an eye on them for a period of 4 years to ensure they're doing well academically. And if they aren't, we have to determine if language is an issue with their academic struggles. See, New Hampshire, the state, is a part of a consortium called WIDA. And WIDA, it is bunch of states, territories, federal agencies that all adhere to the same standards as far as how students are identified. We use the same screening tools, and also the access test, which determines their proficiency score, and also if they do test as proficient. The program now has over 50 teachers, which is quite a growth for over these last couple of years, which we're thankful for. In fact, 6.8 of those teachers last year were on ESSER, and they were moved over to the operating budget for this school year. Whoa, that is the wrong way. Oh, I got it upside down. Our students, we've got 48 languages within the program. 61% of our students speak Spanish, and 13.5 are Portuguese speakers. Our Portuguese group seems to be growing quite a bit in the last couple of years. Our students come from 59 countries, and if you look at the United States, those born in the United States and Puerto Rico are over half that are U.S. citizens. 11% are from Brazil, and 10% from the Dominican Republic, as far as outside of the United States territories. And the proficiency levels that our students are currently at, the levels run from 1 to 4.4. Once they're at a 4.5, they're considered proficient and move to monitored status. So 32%, pretty even split there between 1.9, 2 to 2.9, 3 to 3.9, and then a little bit lower at the 4 to 4.4s. We're hoping to move a bunch of those out of the program with this cycle of access testing that we're engaging in right now. And here's our growth chart over the last few years. You can see quite a spike in the program. And also the green line is one that's quite interesting, because that's the number of teachers we've had. And we can see since we started our compliance agreement with the Department of Justice, we're on a steep incline. It even started before that, but we were a little bit behind the 8 ball for those years, like 2017 through 20. Our teachers were really struggling with the caseload. So thankfully, we've addressed that, but considering the obligations of the compliance agreement, we're still not quite where we need to be.
So before we advance, I think it's really important to look at this slide. You know, the DOJ started looking at 2018, 2019 was the year.
When they were doing the investigation.
Yeah. So just the changes over time, if we even go back to 2014, we were about 12,000 students, right? And so we had about 800 ELL students. We're about 9,900 students right now and 1,700 ELL. It's been a shift in the population. And again, just where people are asking, how are you hiring more teachers when the population's going down? right? And so this has been a big swing where we've been hiring teachers over the last couple of years. So again, the demands and the profile of our students have been changing a lot. And I think it's really important to tell the story. Again, even if you go back, to 2002, I think we were doing some of the math. It was around 4% of our population was ELL students. We're over 20% of our population is ELL. So again, I think it's just the history is important to where is our budget and the need for our staffing. So, and as Mr. Chopa said, you can see over the last couple of years through ESSA dollars and then operating dollars, we've actually increased the amount of teachers to serve our ELL population.
And if you go back and look at, I mean, even if you just Google Nashua English language learners and needs, there are news articles back in 2008 talking about how in 2008 we were short-staffed for ELL teachers. So I'm really excited to see that we were above the line last year, and then we got to more students, and so now we're below the line. But there was a brief period in time there where we had sufficient teachers for 5 minutes.
I wouldn't say sufficient. That's just a graphing. It's just one. It's an overlay.
More teachers
right?
than the.
I mean, even right now, the student to teacher ratio is about 35.
Well, go ahead.
It varies depending upon which school you're looking at. So some of our schools, the teachers have a caseload of about 35 students. Others are upwards of 65 right now.
Okay, I know 65 is way too many. What does the Department of Justice want us to be at?
It's not there's not a ratio. They're looking at more that all of the students are receiving the amount of service provided that we need to provide.
I just can't imagine having a caseload of 65 students for ELL, or I'm thinking of our special education teachers, our case managers as well. Like, that seems like a lot to be able to provide that individualized attention.
And just we can talk about ratios, but if you go back, if we look at the proficiency levels, because the students that are in the 1 to 1.9 require more services than.
Those are the brand new learners,
Exactly, right. So we can't just look just at ratio, because 50 in one building might be very different than 50 in another if there's a bunch of newcomers in there.
Okay, well, judging by my complete lack of success in both Spanish and French, I cannot imagine trying to learn like complex information not speaking the language. So, Ms. Lampier, and then I don't know if Ms. Daniels-Williams needed a question or not.
I just was wondering, what is the ratio, like, are there ELL students in all schools? And what is the percentage of students in each school that need ELL services? I think that might be helpful to know.
They're in all schools. This is the first school year where we have an full-time ELL teacher in every building in the district, which is really great. I say it all the time, the Department of Justice has been, they've certainly been challenging for us, but there's certainly been very beneficial outcomes to the ELL population and their families for this whole process.
Well, that's great. Are there some schools that have like 4 or 5 or 6 or 10, and some schools that have 1? I just think it would be helpful for us to know, like, when we're making decisions on Saturday, and I know it's kind of late now to ask, but I would like to see a kind of a breakdown of how many ELL teachers are in each school.
We have a sheet that we use often for planning that breaks down all of the schools, the number of active students, the amount that receive service, how many level 1s and 2s, 3s and 4s, and then what that comes out to for service periods. So we can for sure provide that for Saturday.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
I just want to make sure that we don't have any schools that only have like 2 or 3 students where we would be violating FERPA by saying this school has 3 kids and everyone in the community is like, oh yeah, I know that family.
Not an issue.
Okay. All right, thanks. Ms. Daniels-Williams?
So this one's, my question is, what can we do to help? Because I know that you're saying 65 people per caseload, and my case manager inside of me says more than 20 is too much, and 20 is a whole lot. So what can we actually do to help? Not only because the federal government is involved, but what can we do to help these students? Because to see the numbers and the percentages.
Yeah, Yeah, so I think as we go through this exercise tonight, we break this down by each category of what the Department of Justice, what their concerns were, and talk about how that might impact the budget. And I think on Saturday, we have some work to do to try to figure out how to deal with some of our different populations within the ELL program, because we do have more services that we hadn't provided in the past to students that are intensive needs and also, English language learners. In the past, we would talk to the special ed case manager and figure out what worked best for that student, and we would kind of, either special education would work with them or maybe ELL. We don't have that option anymore. We have to provide those services. So we just haven't had time to really get into as far as exactly what all of our programming is going to need to look like. And also just the case management role itself is another thing we have to discuss, because that puts on a weight that takes teachers away from teaching. So we try to pick up a lot, this group here tries to pick up a lot of those case management duties, because the teacher's role, the best thing the kids need to do is learn English, and that's through instruction. So we try to leave the teachers alone to teach, and we try to pick up as much of the other ancillary stuff as we can.
So if I can just, sorry, Ms. Clapp. This is a bucket one priority when we talk about, again, where this is a non-negotiable, right? And so when we talk about, again, in that bucket one, special education, ELL, so we'll be asking for more ELL teachers in next year's budget, just so that we can reduce the caseload, make sure that all the students are receiving services. 10 years ago or longer, there would be a presentation saying we need more ELL teachers and it would be cut from the budget. I will be strongly recommending, this is a non-negotiable. We have to add more ELL teachers in next year's budget.
Mr. Claffey and then Mr. Shaw.
Looking way back at my South days, so is the 65 is a kind of an average?
Yeah. Now?
Yes, now 65 isn't, I just know that student-teacher ratios and loads can be a bit.
65 for a role for an ELL teacher is very high.
That's not the average.
I don't believe.
And if you just had to, because at South it seemed.
Okay.
What would you?
Ms. Booton's much better with the numbers. She thinks we're around 50. I mean, we always tried to keep it at 30.
It's still high, but
yeah,
I just, so at South, how many ELL teachers is South, do you know?
6.
6. And how many students roughly?
187.
So that's, wow, 30.
Yeah.
That's
And
30 per,
we're in good shape.
that's not 65, that's half as much. So,
The high
okay,
schools,
that's all.
we feel pretty good with
I just don't want people leaving here Saturday morning thinking that that's the average, that's all.
Yeah, the
It's
high
too
schools.
high.
Yes, the
In
high
some
schools, we're in
schools, it's
better
terrible.
shape. We're in better shape
Okay.
than high schools, for sure.
How about the elementary schools?
The elementary right now is where we see the largest discrepancy, and some of that has to just do with the population size itself within the schools. Some of our schools only have 30 active EL students, others are close to 200. So when you have a range that large, of course, the staffing is going to change. We also see at the elementary level, it's common to have, we have level 1s and 2s proficiency level at all levels, but especially in kindergarten and first grade, many of those students are coming in at a proficiency level 1 or 2, which means they need 2 service periods of ELL a day. So just, again, because of that, it's going to increase the amount of staffing that we need.
That makes sense. I'm sorry. You finish up and then we'll do.
And
Mr.
I
Shaw.
just, my other question is, are we having a problem finding ELL teachers to come to the district?
We're fully staffed.
So okay.
Yeah. So that was, I think that it was, we heard some people didn't think we were going to be able to fully staff with all the positions we had last year, and we did.
Challenge accepted.
It's exactly right.
Good job, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Shaw, thanks for your patience.
Yeah, no, of course, and Trey's fine. But anyways, I wanted to ask you this. So more teachers doesn't solve the problem if the teachers aren't well equipped to teach the students properly. Can you give me some information on how well the students are improving in their English speaking abilities? I know you showed test scores up there, but that didn't really tell me where they started out from. it's not really that impressive if a student goes from level 4 to level 3. That's actually kind of bad.
That's
so,
a backslide.
Yeah. If you could tell me some data you have on how
So we
well.
had I don't know if this slide's still on here, what was it, 80%?
Yeah.
So 80% of the program made at least one proficient, or half a proficiency level jump from last year, which
Oh,
I'm pretty
really?
happy with.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And as far as the training for the teachers that within the English Language Learner program should be certified or have licensure in ESOL with the state. Most of our teachers do. If they're not, they're going through the process to become certified. And then on the other end, for teachers who are not in the ELL program, there's a whole professional development program that's been going on for 3 years focused on sheltered instruction, which benefits the English language learners. And that professional development will continue at least for the next 2, given our extension of the agreement.
Okay. And after, sorry.
Go, finish your question.
They've presented to the community and to us about the progress that they've made before you were elected. And tonight, we're trying to just get through 6 presentations, and they could spend, that information is available. It's just in the interest of time, I think, they decided that we're just going to move on,
Okay, yeah. No, you're right.
So to ask them to do that here, right now, with this limited time, it's not the time, I think.
All right.
Okay, Ms. Lampier?
I'm just wondering, are there any kids that we can't serve because we don't have anyone that speaks their language?
No.
How do you,
All instructions in English.
okay, all right, great, thank you.
You got it.
I struggled with that when I first learned about it too. Coming from New York where they have bilingual education, I was like, what is this all in English?
Okay, so these are the priorities that were identified by the Department of Justice. Identification and placement, which is the initial identification of students upon enrollment. Provision for ESL services, access to core curriculum, which is high-quality instruction within the content areas. Staffing and professional development, which I just mentioned. ELL access to special services, that's ensuring that English language learners receive any kind of special education services if they're duly identified. We do run into issues with that sometimes because of just the nature of the schedule. There's only so much time to service a kid with, especially at the high schools, with only 4 blocks. Curriculum and resources, before this compliance agreement with the Department of Justice, we didn't have one. Now we have K through 12 curriculum. Communications is focused on interpretation and translation services for the parents so that they are partners in education with their children. And then program monitoring and evaluation, which really doesn't, that's more down the road. I don't think we need, and reporting, we don't really need to get into that. So the identification of placement, how we're dealing with, how the district's going to address that is the implementation. The board has already approved the central registration site, which we think will be it'll be beneficial to the entire district, but for the English Language Learner Program, it really helps us with consistent identification with the students immediately upon enrollment. We could give them a screening assessment, get all of their proficiency levels and get those to the schools. Again, and that takes away for some of the responsibilities of the teachers, taking them out of the classroom to do those assessments. So this is going to be a great benefit.
Will the actual assessments be done in that building?
Yep.
Oh,
That's
fantastic.
our plan, yeah. Yep, and then also we did notice there was some inconsistent data throughout the district, and having this housed in one, given how much reporting we've had to do with the Department of Justice, having one, central housing for data entry, I think is going to be just wonderful for again, that just doesn't benefit ELL, it benefits the entire district.
I think the one thing that's been consistent at the DOJ presentations has been that what we do for the English language learners is just good teaching, right? It's just, it's good for everybody. So, I don't know, that's my
and
big takeaway.
With central registration, if you have, 3 kids at 3 different, you were going to 3 different schools. Now, once we get this established, it's one-stop shopping. You can. Provision for access to curriculum. This is, we're continuing to add the ELL teachers to ensure proper instruction. And with the professional development, which there's another slide on, which will be ongoing, is focusing on sheltered instruction for English language learners. So that's, but again, like for the last, well, I'll save it for the professional development. So for this one, for the professional development, for the last 2 years, we've contracted with outside contractors to provide the professional development, and that came at a pretty good cost. We're evaluating different ways. We have a professional development plan we're going to be submitting on October 15th. April 15th, and we'll see if that's accepted by the DOJ. But the costs for professional development were significant throughout the district. No, that was staffing. Okay. Why don't you do staffing? I did professional development.
All right. So we've been fortunate enough to increase from 32 teachers in 2021 up to just over 50 this year. As we've already kind of spoken to, we still have room to grow. Yep. So 8 is a great start in helping us to get towards more sustainable caseloads.
And as we mentioned,
sorry.
As we mentioned before, at elementary and the ELL SPED are kind of those focus areas where we know we've got to bolster up.
Is it 8 is your minimum, or like 8 would be great, but 7 is the minimum, or we really need 10, but we're going to settle for 8?
It's a multi-year plan. It's, I mean, I
really need
I
20.
give kudos to the ELL department in really talking about what we can and can't do. I think last year we asked for, we budgeted for 8. We knew we really needed about 16 or more, but working even with the Department of Justice, they see that it's a large ticket item. So we think we're about 5 to 8 this year. Optimally, we would like to have 8, but again, I think through our conversations on Saturday, it might be 6, but it's really not that much of a difference there. It has to be higher than 6, I think, is our minimum.
Okay.
Did you want to add to that?
I was just going to add that we recognize that there's obviously a lot of competing interests. And so I think for us, the sustainability is the most important part. So I think I can speak for all of us when I say we'd rather see the gradual increase, but know that we're able to continue to support it long-term, as opposed to like a fluctuating, we gain 10 teachers and then have to cut 5 of them. It's just helpful for our program growth to, play the long game. So the slow and steady improvement is for sure helping, and something that has helped greatly.
Okay, thank you.
And there's that April, as I mentioned, not October, that that professional development plan will be due. So we're still working out some of the details on that, but there may be a cost related to that programming. And the special services, again, this is our working relationship with the special ed department. And this is an area where I think that, we are getting better. We kind of operated in our silos in the past, and we're recognizing that's not feasible anymore. It's not in the best interest of the students. So we're really looking for a lot more collaboration and professional development between the 2 departments. We've already started with, on the ELL side, we worked with ELL teachers to recognize some areas of improvement for the working relationship with EL and SPED, and we want to replicate that with the special education department, talking about some of the issues where they could work better with the ELL department. We'll take those issues, put them together, and figure out what kind of professional development and maybe procedures we got to put into place. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was totally just reading my slide. Ms. Lampier.
With the number of intensive needs programs we have in the district, is one ELL teacher focusing on special education really going to be enough?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So curriculum and resources, like I said, we're heading into this agreement with the Department of Justice. We did not have curriculum at all. It's kind of the ELL teach. It was all homemade, all developed in-house. And when that happens, you don't have a lot of consistency. So the district 3 years ago purchased K through 8 curriculum, and last year started to implement the 9 through 12. So funding-wise, and another funding source that the English Language Learner Program has is the Title III grant. I think it's a little under $240,000. That money can be used for 3 purposes. One is professional development, One is family engagement, and one is, it's like instructional practices. We use it mostly for like after school and summer school programming. So those are the only 3 buckets we can spend money on with the Title III money. And we use a lot of that to, when you introduce new curriculum, the teachers need an awful lot of professional development to support them. So we used a significant amount of Title III funds to support the teachers with the new program, and we'll continue to do so. And communications, this one has been a challenge. Thankfully, the district invested and provided, and again, I don't want to say this is just the ELL program, but schools with family engagement coordinators or Spanish-speaking workers they're kind of like, I don't know, almost guidance counselors, social workers. They work with the families just on issues with the kids, information. And so that's one area of communication which has improved. The other areas regarding the Department of Justice are interpreting and translations. And this is an area where we have improved, but our success has also become an issue because, as people around the district understand, we need essential documents to be translated, like IEPs and notifications of special education. It's great. The teachers are, okay, I need this translated, but we're overwhelmed right now as far as trying to keep up with all those translations requests. We've reached out to a couple companies that do, they have a thing called, memory translation. It's like one time like a document, like an IEP has some similar aspects to it every single time. Once it's translated, every time we resubmit another IEP, that's going to be, we won't have to pay for that because they've already done that. But we're waiting for the privacy issues with the tech department to see if those will be approved. Hopefully they will, it's sensitive information, especially with IEPs. But if they get approved through the vetting process with the tech department, I think that would be a real help. We have a ELO communications coordinator, and then we have some interpreters and translators who are used as needed. So when she gets requests for translations, she'll farm them out, say who's available to do them. We just don't have enough people to do all of the requests we're getting right now, to be completely transparent. So this is an area of focus where we're trying to, like I said, we're a little bit of victims of our own success here. It's great, but we got to get better.
Because my understanding from the last Department of Justice presentation is they want everything available in at least English, Spanish, and Portuguese, like those daily announcement emails I get for my high schoolers. And
it's they want everything to be translated by a certified translator, which is somebody who goes through a translation training. So we can't use like Google Translate and say, oh, here you go, you're done. We can use machine translation, but it has to go to someone who's certified to review it and revise any mistakes. Because at this point, I think, machine translation will get better as AI continues to improve, but it's not where it needs to be yet. You have anything you want to add to? Okay.
Oh, and I think the next slide is what Mr. Shaw was asking about.
There it is. Mr. Shaw, we had 111 students test as proficient, which we'd like to see that higher, but we're happy with what we got. And again, almost 80% made at least a half of a percentage or half a point growth on their composite score, which is their overall score. So the lowest is a 1 and the highest is a 4.5 or 4.4. So a 0.5 is a nice jump. But I think, we'd like to see that move up. So anything you guys want to, no? Okay.
Does the Department of Justice have any thoughts on half a point moving up or a point moving up or what the goals should be? Or is it really individualized to the student?
So the state of New Hampshire provides like a annual growth target for each student. And so we hope for proficiency within, it's technically 6 years because this is year 0. And so we look at kind of the growth over that time, but we recognize that like late arriving newcomers, so students that come in say 4th or 5th grade, often that it's a steeper incline quicker and it can take a little bit longer to make the growth. Same for our high school students where you only have perhaps 3 or 4 years until you graduate. You have to kind of condense all of that learning into a shorter amount of time.
Gotcha. I do not have a talent for languages. I find this very intimidating. The work involved for these kids to get proficient and also meet their academic goals. Just, it would be very intimidating for me. So, Mr. Shaw?
Yeah, I think these results are fantastic, and sorry for bringing it up earlier. I didn't know that there was another meeting. I apologize for that.
I don't think Mr. Shaw got a copy of the PowerPoints to read at home either, so it's not like he could do his homework.
Yeah, I know. Miss Lamford just sent it to me, so we're good.
Great.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Mr. Alexander next.
Again. So I think we have 13 minutes until 9, which is we missed it. The policy for the budget committee says 3 hours for a meeting. So I would just like to get consensus on finishing up with special education, which we learned a lot about last night. And then, oh no, Mr. Chopa? Okay. We won't.
What happened?
Head over heels for ELO.
It's been a long day. But I would like to get consensus. I would like to get consensus on finishing Mr. Alexander's special ed wrap up from yesterday and curriculum and curriculum, what is it? CNI, curriculum and instruction tonight. Does anyone have any objections to us finishing both of those this evening? Okay, so 2/3 of us are okay with it because 100% of us are okay with it. So please note in the minutes that we have consensus to finish the agenda.
Do only need 5 for a quorum, so if there's somebody who needs to get up early to go to work, you can review this on the,
I gotta get up very early tomorrow. I can stay for a little while longer, though.
okay, do whatever you want to do, but just know that we have the people here to support you.
Right,
And I think with special education, there's a lot of repeat from last night. So, if Mr. Alexander goes through it, and I think we hold the questions to the end, I think we'll be able to speed this along.
yeah, and the genesis of that policy is just we want to be respectful of everybody's time. So, but also get all our questions answered. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Alexander.
Nice to see you all again tonight. So quickly, this is a repeat from last night, just showing our total numbers and the breakdown by disability. This is a graphic representation of that, just so you can get a better picture of how the primary disabilities in our district are distributed. Next, again, another repeat, talking about the special ed process. These are kind of repeated every year just to keep you guys informed. So I'm not here to ask for more positions this year, but I do want to present, like, at our various levels, what our average caseload, I want to make sure I stress average caseload, is per FTE that we have. These do vary by school, program, et cetera. So I would be remiss if I said, at the elementary school, we don't have case managers or special ed teachers who have caseloads of 25, and then potentially a intensive needs program that has 6 or 8 kids. So just please understand this is an average across all those areas. And the pre-K does include both the AM and PM session for our students. Sorry, BCBA caseloads didn't get in there, but our SLPs currently have 32 students per SLP. You saw the data last night about how many services that they provide. I do have an asterisk by that because this is going to be a position that we are monitoring this year to see if it's going to be a continued future need or will it continue to balance off, I guess, because it has increased. And again, this is average. So we do have some that have a much higher number and some that have much lower. And then some, when they are managing what we call augmentative communication devices, that's a lot more work to do outside of just the therapy sessions themselves. So I did asterisk that to monitor that. BCBAs, I apologize that didn't get in there, but they run about 35 per BCBA. they are a consultation model, and they do help support the kids and work a lot on behavior planning and structure within our programs and our students. So that's why, and we have added VCBAs over the last couple of years, positions. Numbers that I brought from last night. So we have our total numbers for 3 years. This is for out-of-district students, 62, 85, and 68. Those are broken down by court placed or 402 students. And you can see those numbers there. I want to stress that what this means is that these students, we're not able to access them to have them come to our school because of their placement. Because of that, the Chapter 402 gives us a cap, which I'll show you, that we pay for, and I believe it's 3.5 times the cost per student. Let me skip to this now, and I'll go back to that one I had. So this is the 402 caps each year. What the district is responsible paying for that child's education, and then the rest of that cost for that child to be in the educational school that they're at, private special education school, is passed back on to the state. So in 2023, the cap that the district paid per student was $53,956.98. That increased from 21-22 by $3,198. And you can read the chart as there. So you can see that from 21 to this current year, it increased $8,000 per student that we had to contribute to pay for their education. Again, these are students we couldn't have access to come back to our district because of their placement and distance and usually their need.
So these are students who, it wasn't the district or the parent who requested the out-of-district parent placement. It is court involved.
That's correct.
Through the state
Correct.
level.
Yep.
Completely out of our control.
Yep, and the district placed students there are 50, 72, and 52. Those are students that our teams have made determinations that we're not able to meet those students' needs, as we kind of discussed last night. And those are the kids that we'll look at these costs for. We picked 4 schools that we send students to, day students. This does not have students, does not reflect like students in a 402 placement or anything of that nature. These
No
are purely,
residential placements.
No, so you can see that these are daily costs, the daily rate, and how they've increased steadily over the last 3 years. And the differences each year, and I'm sorry, that last one was in white, and I don't know how that got there. Let me put my glasses and see if I can see it. That last one is $3,878. So we have continued to see an increase in these costs. I can't tell you what it will be for 25, 26. So if these students remain in their placements, and those annual IEP meetings and determination of placements keep them in their current placement. We don't usually get contracts for that when they make their decisions until May, June, sometimes July. So we don't even, are unable to even make a determination what next year's increase will be, but we kind of, I think Crystal and her team do their formulas to kind of figure out what the percentage increase is. But I know that was a question that you all had around our out-of-district budget because the number has increased over the years.
So just to follow up on that, this is the daily rate, but the previous slide was the yearly rate. So if we guess like an average of $400 a day, 180 days a year, that's $72,000 per student.
So they're 2 different pieces. This is a cap rate we're paying for a particular student that is involved in a court placement that we're not able to have them come back to Nashua.
For the whole year, though?
That's it, for the whole year,
whole year.
for those 12 students that we had in the 402 court placement.
Yeah.
These are daily rates that we pay for our students we placed in schools out of district. We represent it on daily rates because certain schools could be 180, 205, 210, 220. So I didn't want to do an average cost per student. Also, I don't want to do too much disclaimer on that, but just really give an overall perspective of what daily rates look like in the cost.
So we're gonna get on Saturday some more hard numbers, but I'm like doing some math on the back of my napkin here, and I'm looking at like $4 million.
6 million.
6 million.
was
Okay,
gonna
see, math, I was a social worker, not a mathematician, but wow. And of these costs maybe this is a Saturday question, because I want to know about like what's reimbursable by Medicaid, what's the $2,300 that the state gives us.
You know what I bet would be great is because these are such detailed questions that maybe we want to submit them before Saturday so they
email.
can get them
Yeah,
together.
and I will be honest, a lot of that is not known as well, because under Medicaid law, we don't know what's reimbursable.
Until after.
We just don't, it's anonymous. We submit that, and it goes through a third-party company that helps us with that billing process and approval process. We never know which student we get Medicaid reimbursement for because privacy protection. So what we submit, the amount, versus what we get back, we have no idea what students it's for, but we submit them based under medically necessary.
Got it.
Under Medicaid, and then sorry, Ms. Bishop, under the special education aid, that there is a memo that we can, from the state that comes to Dr. Andre and Ms. DeGray as well, to tell us what those caps are every year that we can submit for. And then sometimes later on, the percentage comes out, as you all saw in the news this year, the percentage was significantly lower than what it had been in previous years.
Yeah, which, who knows what's going to happen with the state budget, the hearing for which is tomorrow afternoon, by the way, the only hearing. So if you have thoughts, you should email your representative. I just want to be clear, these placements we learned last night, this is a matter of the legally entitled services that these kids need, right? Like the team has determined that they need them, so we are legally obligated to provide them.
So once the team
pay
has
for it.
made a determination that this is the appropriate placement based on the needs of the student because we are unable to meet those needs, this becomes the cost for that. And I need also caution that sometimes this is only the educational rate. So it is not related services sometimes. It is not extra support if the child needs it. This is for the child to walk in the door, receive education from a special educator in that environment, and then there may be other costs associated.
Is the transportation included?
Not in these numbers, no.
Okay, and then one last question, and then I'll let other people have questions. Going back a couple slides to the speech language pathologist, and I forget what BCBA stands for.
Board Certified Behavior Analyst.
Thank you. Are those people that are full-time employees under the teacher's contract, or are those contractors?
So those positions and the FTEs that we have in our budget are under the teacher contract. We do have contractors filling positions because we are required by IEPs to fulfill the needs of these students.
So if we can't fill it if we can't hire a person full-time, that's the contractors, contracted services line that Ms. Lampier brings up at every board meeting about how we're edging ever so close to the limits.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for indulging me. Ms. Lampier, then Ms. Bishop, or the other way?
Ms. DeGray had a question, so.
All right, comment.
No, I was just going to comment and give maybe some numbers. So based off of tuition out of district, just the overall cost, right? So Ms. Raymond, to your point, $4 million is a little light. So in 2023, for out of district tuition between operating and special revenue, we spent about just over $6 million.
And that's just the education piece, not the busing piece, because there's also the individualized buses that have to transport each child to their own placement.
Correct. And to Mr. Alexander's point, if we cannot find these staff, we have to go ahead and contract service them out, right? So that it also is why we're seeing an increase in contracted services.
Okay. All right, I'll look forward to more numbers.
2024, and I'll be super quick, we spent over $7 million in out-of-district tuition.
Ooh.
And currently, so far this year, we've spent over $4 million, which during finance and ops, which is what we talk about every single month, I am anticipating we will be over budget again this year. We have a budget right now of about $6 million for tuition out of district. We are going to recommend we increase that slightly next year to 6.5 million. But we'll see with a tight budget kind of what we essentially can do. And that's probably an option that we have to do.
Yeah, this doesn't seem optional. All right. Ms. Bishop, thank you.
So are you telling me that we send a kid to out-of-district placement because we can't manage their behaviors here, and we can send them to a place who needs to give them even additional support at an additional cost to us? So it's like the base tuition, and then there's like add-ons?
Yes. Some program, I mean,
like a hotel.
it's hard to, again, I try to preserve every child's anonymity here, right?
But is it,
And that
do you have any say in the add-ons, or like
well,
once they
it's
go?
IEP driven. So if a student goes to an out-of-district placement, we're not able to meet their needs behaviorally or whatever other particular
That's
reason.
understandable.
And they have speech and language needs.
Yeah.
Those services are à la carte. There will be an additional charge or cost for that outside of the daily tuition rate. Some will offer a teacher and 3 paras in a classroom. That's your daily rate. If the child needs more support than that and they're not able to meet their child's needs within that, there could be an additional cost for that. Occupational therapy, physical therapy, there could be additional costs for that.
And I'm assuming that they're probably struggling with the same things we are, which is finding in-house PT, speech, OT, that they may be contracting out, so their costs may be even more increased as well.
So I just want to make sure we're clear. We contract our OTs and PTs as well.
No, I
we've
know.
had them
I'm saying,
contracted.
like,
Most schools.
Everything's exorbitant everywhere.
Most of the out-of-district schools, some will have in-house, some have
Depending on how
relationships
lucky
with
they
other
are.
agencies
Yeah.
as well. So.
So what I'm hearing from all this is that our seniors should be thinking about majoring in OT or PT or
And then working
special
for the school
ed
district.
in college and coming back to us.
Yes. I'm just, it's mind-boggling to me how little control we have once they go out of placement. And I know we work really, really hard to keep them here and meet their needs. I appreciate the fact that we put this money towards the best education that they can have, but it's always like, I feel like tongue-tied when we're talking about the finances of it.
So I can tell you that, you know, as I think I mentioned before, I'm part of South Central, which is a large region of school districts. And when I talk about our out-of-district numbers, our percentage, when we look at some of our other colleagues around here, are low. Not comparing us to another large district in the state, we're also significantly low. So we continue to do that, even though for us it is a significant cost, and we see that. And we offer a lot of programming within our district to try to support that, as we addressed and discussed last night.
Okay, I thought I saw Ms. Daniels-Williams.
I just have a question while Mr. Gray is on the numbers. Now, for 2023, do we have the numbers of what was reimbursed to us for those students?
I don't have those numbers right now, and I think we'll have to, let's see if we can get you those figures for Saturday, because I think to Mr. Alexander's point, there's a fine line between what is reimbursable, what isn't reimbursable.
No, and I mean, just overall, what has come back? Because like we already discussed, we can't know what student it came back for, what school it came back for, or what services it comes back for. I just wanted to know, like, how much of it actually comes back into the district, you know, because Medicare pays it back at some point, but I just didn't know how much of that is reimbursed or where it goes when it does come back to the
So
district.
I think that we have to understand that that money does not come back to the district, it goes to the city. So when we put in Medicaid reimbursement and we receive that reimbursement, it goes back to the city. When we do our special education aid, the number that we get goes back to the city. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know why that is. I just know that here, and I think someone else could maybe speak to that better.
Yeah, well, I think we're part of the city, so our finances are, linked in weird ways that don't happen in some of the other districts that are standalone districts. So very similar to what Mr. Smith was talking about earlier, about how they can purchase vehicles, but then we just have to pay the maintenance. So we have a lot of partnership type of arrangements with money. So money, even the money that comes to the state that then we get, all that money goes to the city, and then the city disperses it to us.
And we just have to fine line, I would say, remember to Ms. Raymond's point, the city supports us with all of the benefits. So
Yeah.
on Saturday, and when Dr. Andrade was talking about a 6.6% increase, right? That has nothing to do with our benefits. Our benefits, the benefit increase is not even in that number.
Right, so the other districts that are having their budget meetings right now and they voted today, they have to really line item as part of their school district budget, health insurance and retirement and stuff. And Nashua doesn't have to do that as part of our discussion here because the city does that as part of their discussion.
And that
So
number for out of
we get
district
kind of spoiled.
cost would look much different if that, I'd say, check transfer came back directly to Mr. Gray's office and she were to apply that to that budget line, there would be that reduction and we would be, there'd be a difference. It's always an expenditure to us in the district.
It's so, I've been learning quite a lot about this lately. It's very complicated. Yeah. Ms. Lampier?
Do we even know around how much we get back from Medicaid? Or how much the city gets? Is that something that they share with us?
we do have those figures. I know I provided
Okay.
Dr. Andre and
All right, that's
Mr. Gray,
good.
so.
I just wanted to, a lot of times people will talk about the cost of educating kids with disabilities because it's super expensive. But, they don't take into account the money that comes back from Medicaid or the extra money from the state or even that these kids are just kids and that everyone does deserve an education. So I just wanted to remind everyone to keep that in mind when we're talking about them. I know we have such a good board that everyone will, but I just felt like I need to say it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander.
Thank you all.
It was great, 2 nights in a row and Saturday. Woo!
Mr. Posca?
Okay, I have the marquee spot here in the last presentation of the night, and I'm the only thing preventing you from going home is me, so I will try to be as brief and as efficient as possible. So, as we heard going earlier, our focus is for the coming school year in curriculum instruction assessment, a continued use of our high-quality evidence-based resources. I think last year we made a significant investment in varieties of curriculums, particularly at the elementary school. So we want to continue with that going forward. And that leads into the next bullet of the continuity. There's really no use in continuing to make changes. So we want to keep that. As we heard earlier, is we really are focused on our Tier 1 resources and materials, which is really what we're going to talk about at great length in this part of the presentation. Continue to utilize our assessments and our data to inform our instructional practices and continue to provide professional development to support the varied needs of all our staff in grades pre-K through 12. At the elementary level, there's a variety of curriculums in place. We've fully implemented CKLA at the elementary level, K to 5. And I think we've had, overall a successful year in implementing this after, some pilots last year. We have provided some PD through that over the course of the year. Within, under the ELA umbrella, we are utilizing MClass, which is a monitoring system, which we need to do for progress monitoring for our DIBELS testing, which is a state mandate here in New Hampshire. This data also supports the creation of our independent reading plans, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Foundations is a foundational reading and writing program for our lower elementary school students, primarily K to 3. When we were talking about the priorities for our needs, our elementary principals were really speaking out strongly about how impactful this resource was for our students. And that also ties in with Lexia, which is a teacher-led instruction with interacting online. It's unfortunate that Ms. Print had to leave due to her work tomorrow, but it's a really interesting program. It's significantly valued here in the district by all of our staff for what we're utilizing for our students, which provides immediate data for the progress of our students, whether they're progressing very well or still progressing at their own speed, at their own level. I've thrown in some slides just to provide some of the data and what it looks like, but for an M class, this is again a class summary for one of our classrooms, and it just provides the varied progress of our students and where they're at this moment in time where they're taking it. This progress monitoring goes on over the course of the year, so we continually monitor the growth of our students and how they're progressing in the course of the year. We get detailed benchmark performance information from this. This is also through the CKLA umbrella, which I think is why this resource has been so valuable. It provides us an inordinate amount of data to help inform our practices and talk about the progress that our students are making on a regular basis. All set. I talked a little bit before about our individualized reading plans. Earlier this year, as you know, we made the decision to not have report cards for first trimester. At the end of the day, we still need to report out on the progress of our students. One of the things that our principals and us as a district were talking about was so important was utilizing these individualized reading plans to provide the information to the students about how their child is progressing. So this data is probably even more important to parents and to teachers to kind of talk about how their child is progressing as opposed to some of those standards-based report cards that parents were receiving prior to this year. So provides those kind of the good feedback about what goes on. And as this is a progress monitoring system, it's continually being updated every 4 or 6 weeks, depending upon the student and what their needs are.
Have you gotten any feedback from parents? Like, have the teachers reported whether or not, because this to me seems a lot more accessible than the, inexplicable random letters that I was getting when my kids were in elementary school.
Yeah, for the most part, it's been really positive, and the increased communication between families and teachers.
Good.
I got one question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Daniels Williams.
How is this transmitted to the parents?
The individualized reading plans, it's sent home from the teachers directly to the parents. So to Dr. Andrade's point, that increased communication between teacher and parent is so very important. And I think to Ms. Raymond's point, it actually makes more sense when they get something like this as opposed to the standards-based report card they were receiving previously. So I think it really and kind of worked on help with the relationships, because a lot of this information comes out just before parent conferences, which is around November, December. So again, it's a lot of information at one time, so they really get a lot of information about the progress the student is making in the classroom.
But in X2 or in paper?
In paper. Again, I just wanted to put a slide in to show the utilization of our Alexia and just what it demonstrates. And I think the note on the right is so very important. And as we've met with Lexia, and Lexia has worked with our elementary administrators, the consistent usage of this over time demonstrates how the student is doing. And when Lexia is used consistently, students are making consistent progress. As we've talked about, and I think we've talked about it at curriculum and instruction, we've talked about it in policy, the elementary staff, they've had a lot of curricula thrown at them this year. And I think a lot of these other resources also support them. So again, I think where we're where we're at this year is we're seeing staff getting used to all the changes come through and all the resources are at their disposal right now. So to have these available to them to demonstrate how our students are progressing is very important. When we talked earlier about what our focus there is, our consistent use of the resources, we want to try to continue with this consistency going forward, which is one of our focal points going for this upcoming budget season. Again, at the elementary, we talked about the changes in the math program. A subtle change here was going from Eureka to Eureka Squared. I think overall, this has been a subtler change as opposed to changing from CKLA. I think overall, this is the program is much more rigorous. There's a connection with real-world math problems in math practices overall. We're happy with where we're going here. One of the things we're talking about, you heard Mr. Chope and his team talk about it, how can we provide some of our ELL PD next year? One of the things we're considering is, do we utilize, this current year, we use CKLA at the elementary level as our conduit to provide ELL PD for our elementary staff K to 5. One of the things we're talking about is using Eureka Squared next year as the conduit to provide some of our ELL PD going forward. So that's one of the things that we're considering as we think about some of our next steps, and also to provide those staff with increased access and support with this new curriculum, or relatively new curriculum.
And Ms. Williams, it's because I'm looking at Mr. Posca and not looking in your direction, and I apologize. And then Mr. Shaw after. Oh, it was just to let me know.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Shaw.
Sorry, I'll be really quick. I'm really, really glad that Eureka Squared is a thing now. I remember back when I was in 5th grade and I had to do Eureka in Maine Dunstable, I actually created a petition that got 100 signatures to get rid of Eureka Math, and I got a stern talking to by the principal because of that. So, and this actually addresses, like I was hearing, the rigorous more questions, real world applications. This addresses the exact problems that I and other kids were having and facing during Eureka Math. Yeah, elementary school. So thank you for this. It's very good.
Well, we still have to talk about middle school, so hold on tight there, okay?
Does the Eureka Squared have the same parental supports that the original Eureka did? Because I remember when my kids were little, we got like a little guide that came home with every new new introduced concept so that we could learn how to do the math.
It does, and I think the Ed Tech Resources has identified Eureka Square is a very effective curricula for our students and for our staff. So I think, to Shrey's point, it recognizes that it is an improvement upon what Eureka was at that level. I think one of the things that we've heard from our staff and from our administrators is the user-friendly verbiage that they're using with Eureka Squared is much better than what it was in Eureka. So again, I think overall I think to Eureka's credit, they took some of the feedback they've heard about their product and made some improvements going forward.
Okay.
Science, Amplify Sciences for this year is now firmly in place. We've implemented in K to 1 this year, so is now touching all of our elementary grade levels K to 5. This allows for a full vertical integration of Amplify Science K to 8. Again, Amplify, one of the things they have, talk about is really, aligned to our NGSS standards, the cross-cutting concepts. I think one of the things I've always, talked about with, what science teachers have always mentioned, particularly at the secondary level, is you learn science by doing science. And it provides a lot more hands-on opportunities to engage with the curricula, and also connected to real-world problems. So again, I think both Amplify Science and CKLA, which is also an Amplify product, also complement each other very, very well. Moving on to the secondary level, and I know I'm going fast, and I do apologize, but I am going to continue to go unless I get the hook. Last year, over the last 2 years prior to this school year, we've done an awful lot of work with our ELA staff at the middle school level, making significant changes. Last year, with the changes that we've made in ELA and kind of eliminating, and just having one course called ELA, Our teachers wanted to create their own units of study, so we've started that work this year. Writing new curricula is hard work. So we've worked on that this year. We need to continue to work on that going forward. We've partnered with an outside organization, TLA, to provide coaching and support with this curriculum development. We want to continue to reflect and analyze on the work that we're doing this year and continue that going forward next year. As we, again, I think when you're updating curriculum, you're doing it in pencil. You're always reflecting upon it. It's not written in stone. So I think we need to always continue to reflect, look at the data, what is it that our staff and our students need, and make those adjustments as we go forward. At this point, I've put in some information talking a little bit about iReady, because we utilize iReady to provide some feedback about the progress our students are making in both ELA/reading and math at the middle school level. This is the second full year of implementation. It provides us an idea, and again, we're doing a fall diagnostic, a middle of the year diagnostic, an end of the year diagnostic. We're also providing personalized learning plans for our students based upon their needs. But I think if you look in the far right, you can see the number of students who are participating in completing the iReady assessments. So we have really good participation across all of our middle schools regarding the utilization of our iReady product. Same thing, I think, in the next slide is you're talking about our math progress. Again, same thing. I really want to point out how well we're utilizing this. I think what we need to do, and I think when you talked about one of our focuses is the continuity. We need to make this a part of our culture going forward. It's getting there. I think it's the next steps. We need to continue to work on that overall.
So before you go, can
Absolutely.
I just slow you down on that slide?
Math or English or whatever.
Math or English, both are fine. I'm just trying to make sure I understand what it's showing me, because if I look at the top two, we only had 4% that were above grade level, right? And that's gone up to 8.
Yep.
And so 9 to 18. So we are seeing in this data that kids are progressing through, like they're learning, right? And they're progressing from even below grade level, right? Like we had kids who were very below grade level, that number has gone down.
We are seeing, I think we're, as we talk about it, and we talk about it with our middle school administrators, we'd like to see a bit of a larger jump, but we're moving in the right direction. I think it's, as we continue to talk about how we're utilizing our personalized learning plans, that can also support some of this work going forward, and we have invested in that this year. In all honesty, there's been a lot of change at the middle school level this year too, so we need to kind of understand that as we're looking at some of this data as well. So I think all of those things are factors as we're going on, and I think to Ms. Raymond's point, you're kind of reading it from left to right here. So the greens are kind of the at grade level and above level. The yellows are kind of approaching grade level, and the reds are varying degrees below grade level. So I think we really want to see, obviously some more greens and yellows in that, but also this is a precursor and a little bit of a projection on how our students will perform on SIS testing later in the spring.
Okay. So I can't wait for a curriculum committee in June, and then again, I don't know, next December when we have this data year over year. So, Ms. Daniels-Williams.
Can you share with us how the placement is given? Is it optional or?
No, it is. It is an expectation that all our students are taking it. You see a little bit of variation with the numbers at McCarthy due to some of the intensive needs programs, so that's why it looks a little bit lower there. But it is an expectation that all of our students are participating in those assessments.
So the special needs students don't take this test?
Some of them do, but there are many of the students, some of the other students do not, based upon where they're at and what their needs are.
Okay.
Matter of fact, that's a great point you made. And one of the celebrations that we have had is demonstrating the utilizing this assessment to look at some of the growth that some of our special education students, particularly within some of the programs, are making that progress. So, obviously, over the course of the year, we want to see students make a year's worth of growth. You start in the beginning of the year, grade 7, we want to see you beginning of the year, grade 8 at the conclusion of the year. We've had some data, and Dr. Esparza at a recent middle school principal meeting was showcasing and very proud of some of the growth that some of her special education students were making at the middle of the year, that they've jumped 2 grade levels.
Whoa.
Yeah, so which is a significant growth at this time. There's still some work to do, but again, there are celebrations even within this data that don't come out. But again, one of the things that the teachers doing are working with those students to celebrate those individual successes so that they are aware of the progress that they're making.
Absolutely. Thank you. I've heard some great things. That's why I was hoping to hear about the different programs with the special education thing. We didn't hear.
Ms. St-Pierre?
Is there significant, there must be significant overlap with the ELL students and the kids that are significantly below grade level, right?
Yes, those students are participating in that. It's more data points for us to triangulate, and again, it just helps inform how the progress that we're making. But again, I think it's really important that they are part of this. All of our students are proud of this progress, and in all of our, again, it goes back to when we're talking about those individualized reading plans. It's more data to talk about with the parents to inform them about the progress that their child is making.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Talking a little bit about math, and to Shrey's point, one of the things that where we're seeing probably our most consistent implementation of our curriculum and our standards is in math. And one of the things that our math staff has done is, although we still utilize Eureka in the middle school, we supplement it with open up resources. And I think, to Shrey's point that was made earlier, I think that there are some really good things about the Eureka math. I think the open up resources and supplementation that we're doing within our curriculum kind of impacts and kind of speaks to some of the concerns that were in place or were brought up previously. We're consistently implementing the math practices, and we're consistently and we're working on some professional development with an outside vendor through Math Empowered that's in place, and it's about the 3rd year that it's been in place with that, and we have seen some consistency with the improvement in instruction in our math practices throughout our all 3 middle schools with math. Science, as I spoke to before, now we have full integration of Amplify in grades K through 8, which I think is great not only for our staff, but more importantly for our students, who are now seeing that consistency of the utilization of the resource from school to school and grade to grade. The usage data, I think, speaks to this, is how active our students and staff are utilizing this resource on a regular basis.
Are we now having a little bit more of hands-on activities with the Amplify Science? Because I know when my kids were in middle school, science was not the computerized experiments were fine, but they don't get kids excited about science. So are we integrating any kind of hands-on science to get people excited?
I think there's a little combination of both right now going on. And I think that was some of the feedback that we got about Amplify Science. I think it does connect well to the real-world application and real-world problems about what's going on. So I think the conceptualization of the science idea is there. I think everyone would like to see more of, we are spending a lot of, I think one of the resources that you're going to see when I talk about the cost of Amplify Science, we're going to see about the kind of the resources we're purchasing or we're hoping to purchase at the elementary level for grades 4 and 5. So I think we're doing more of that there, and I think we're seeing, that more importantly is I think students have become more familiar with it as they go from grade to grade, because this was kind of a spiraled process working our way backwards, finally, culminating this year where it was implemented in kindergarten and 1st grade.
Okay, thank you.
The usage data on this one is just for Amplify Science?
This is just related to Amplify Science.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Social studies, I think, again, as we talked about last year, there was some updated scope and sequence that had to occur due to some changes at the state level. So we've implemented those in grades 6 to 8. We've also implemented pre and post-test assessments for each trimester in grades 6 through 8, which has allowed us, where we didn't have a lot of student data in social studies, now it's provided us a bit more student data going forward. One of the budget requests that is coming forward is an updated social studies textbook in grades 7 and 8. It's been quite some time since we've purchased a new resource for our students. This was vetted last year and went through a pilot. We brought this as a request last year through the budget process, and unfortunately, it was not be able to fit into last year's budget. So, we are bringing it forward again based upon the needs, in try to update our resources for our middle school staff as well. The data that we're showing is this common assessment data, and I know those slides up the top are a little bit more difficult to see. But I think if you look at the narrative at the bottom, I think what we're seeing is the progress that our students making from the beginning of the trimester to the end of the trimester. With you look at grade 6, with 86% of the students taking the post test, earning a passing grade, 46%. Making the progress in grade 7, and then 76 of the students taking the post test, making that significant step. So. Again, before when we were talking about social studies, we didn't have this common assessment data available. So that was, again, you look at when we talk about what our focuses were earlier, again, utilizing more data to kind of reflect upon, our teaching and instruction and our student progress. So we're trying to be consistent with our messaging. Certainly don't want to not count out the high school and what we're doing on there. Working with the Mr. Richard and Mr. Burns, we have a lot of units of study that are in place at the high school level that probably need to be updated. There's some updates that are occurring with ED 306 that may impact some of our curricular a little bit. So we're waiting for that to be finalized, kind of so we can talk about what those next steps are going forward and some of those updates that have to occur. But the plan is to start developing a plan to have our staff work on updating these curricular units in those varied content areas. So we're in the process of developing what those priorities are going to be, and what it would be, let's say it's going to be English and then math and then science or whatever it might be. But we're developing that plan, but we're holding off a little bit to get with those final ED 306 updates. So we're making sure we're making the appropriate changes in the appropriate curricula.
And is this only for the kind of core graduation curriculum, or does it include CTE curriculum?
At this point, our focus is going to be on the core graduation curricula.
Okay. Thank you.
So when we're talking about what our FY26 curriculum needs are, I think you're going to see a repetition of what it is. So those in elementary level, when you're talking about ELA, those are the programs that we're looking to move forward, along with the costs associated with those programs. Really have, we were working very closely with math and Eureka. I think we've made some cost savings there based upon what it was in the past, or what was last year. So $200,000 is about a $50,000 savings from last year based upon what we're working on. Again, to the point that Ms. Raymond made earlier, the Amplify, online platform for K-5 is $22,000, but we need to purchase some updated resources in grades 3 to 4, so that's the additional cost there for Amplify Science in grades 3 to 4 for this coming school year.
So on these resources, are these like an annual kind of subscription fee? Because we're not buying kids like the books that we used to have and then we'd keep them, and so
with the curricula, those are the annual. Take away the Amplify resource of grade 5, so the Amplify K-5 is an annual fee, the Eureka is an annual fee, and all those ELA resources are annual fees.
Okay. So we should expect this as an ongoing line item in the budget as we go from year to year.
And yes, and whether it's CKLA or another program, this is an annual cost for curriculum to ensure we're investing in high quality research-based instructional materials.
But it's not new curriculum, it's just
That's
the
correct.
annual fee for the curriculum that we have now.
That
So
is
we're not
correct.
asking teachers to learn something all new again.
Correct.
Okay.
Focusing on our focus, again, the continuity and the continuity of where we're going on so we can get more comfortable with the resources and the curriculums that are in place.
Okay.
Again, at the secondary level, continue with Amplify Science, continue with iReady, the request for middle school social studies textbooks in grades 7 and 8. You heard Mr. Chopa's team talk about some of the ELL resources when we were developing this budget. Elevation is a resource that's used for all our content areas, our core content areas, K to 12. Previously, it had been in the ELL budget. Really believe it should be in the curriculum budget because it is part of the core curriculum and supports the core curriculum. So we've moved this into the curriculum budget for this upcoming year, which does free up a little bit of money in Mr. Chopa's budget, adds it on there, but it is a K to 12 resource and it's probably appropriately placed here.
And then the textbooks are physical big books again?
Books and online access.
How old are our books? Like, who is the president in them?
They're old. I think it's been a while since those have been updated, and that's why, again, we brought this forward last year as a request. It would be, again, I think we need, Dr. Andres talked about this before, and we talked about it on Saturday. This is a request here, but we're going to have some difficult decisions to make going forward, so we're going to have to consider that.
Right, I think my daughter brought home one that had Bush Jr. as the president still. It's like, this is the current president. So that was just last year. Ms. Lampier?
I was just kind of surprised about the books, the textbooks, rather than like a Amplify Science type thing. Do they offer any of those for social studies, and they're just much more expensive, or?
This is textbooks and online digital versions as well. It's a combination of both. So there'll be textbooks that'll be basically staying in the classrooms and be as a resource there, but also have the option for online resources as well.
I mean, can we, I love books, like actual physical books, but could we just get online resources and not textbooks? Is that any kind of option?
I don't know that that saves money, right? Because the Revolutionary War history has not changed since we were in high school.
So there's two ways to look at it in the funding. So sometimes with the online resources, it's an annual cost, right? So that's something, it's $7 a student per year. And so that's just ongoing. It would be almost like an elementary. Sometimes the textbooks with the combination is a little cheaper. And then the online versions would keep on being updated on a yearly basis.
Okay.
So it's,
I always feel like social studies gets left out. And
I'm guessing, I think
Oh, yeah, sure, of
from
course.
what I've seen, it's good for a teacher to have a class set of hard copies in case there's a problem. Kids their laptop's not charged. So my guess is it's one class set. They don't bring them home. Sorry, Reagan. I don't think the kids are as sad as you are.
so it's more, what ends up happening, the hard books become the class resource, right? So to Mr. Claffey's point, like you're finding your maps here, just kind of your static history, and then the online is more dynamic.
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Daniels-Williams.
So do we have that for all the other subjects, the science, the math? Do we have the hard copies?
No, they are more, pick on science, it's more of a digital online resource.
Okay, I was just.
Yep.
Because it changes and it's interactive. Ugh.
The last.
For the social study.
Last topic I wanted to bring up is just talking about our federal grants, and obviously going forward, there's some uncertainty of what funding we will have for Title II and Title IV. Last year, we had probably just under $1 million that we were able to utilize in Title II and Title IV funding. Title II focuses on teacher development. Title IV focuses on well-rounded students, safe and healthy schools, and appropriate technology. You heard, again, we've worked very closely as a team to make these presentations to you. You heard Mr. Chopa talk about the mandated ELL trainings. That is not going away. We utilized our title grants to pay for ELL PD last year, In addition, we had some of our instructional coaches were part of the Title II grant as well. You take those two things, that's approximately $700,000 of the grant that was spent on ELL, PD, and coaches. So that does not leave a lot of other funding for other resources or needs within the district. Again, one of the other things that we also need to come up with is district PD. You heard us talking about the curriculum development that we'll probably need at the high school. So this will probably be a focus of our grants, and also the continuation of some of our steering committees. So that's really what we're talking about for our curriculum and instruction assessment budget for FY26.
Okay, thank you.
Nope.
No clapping.
My questions are quick, answers are quick. So, to the best of my knowledge, I'm sorry, may I? I remember doing this thing back in like 2006 called, I can't even remember the name of it, but they had curriculum directors here. And I don't,
We used to have half-time assistant principals,
look at
half-time
the,
curriculum.
you guys can go home, this isn't important. But
No.
I can't even remember, we had to, what was, UBD, you remember that? The UBD stuff, wasn't that about 18 years ago? So I know some course curriculum guides have been rewritten, but what else has been done district-wide at the secondary level to, and I know you're gonna pay people to do it, I was just wondering if anything has been done to replace UBD at central office?
What does UBD stand for?
Understanding by design.
Thank you.
And at the secondary level, some of those, at the high school level, some of those curricula have been updated. But I think as we talked about, I think as you stepped out with some of the updates with ED 306, there are going to be some tweaks. So this is our opportunity to continue to update some of those curricular units at the high school level, really with our focus being on the core content areas. At the middle school, with our math curriculum scope and sequence has been updated, science has been updated, social studies has been updated, and we're in the process of updating our ELA one.
Sorry, one last promise. Have you, at central office, had any conversation about bringing back curriculum specialists? I know we have coaches, but have you had any conversation with head teachers about that?
Not with head teachers, but we've had a conversation in central office, and again, on looking at our infrastructure and how do we support, and where's our area of need. I think almost historically, you have the information of, the curriculum coaches K through 12. It used to be district-wide or at the secondary level. So it's part of our kind of conversations on how do we rethink and how do we support teachers internally. So it's not in this year's budget, though.
Because I don't know how far back I'd have to go, but the assistant superintendents weren't in charge, as I recall, they weren't in charge of curriculum. And now they are.
It was one.
How far back are you going?
No, even when
Yeah, math, they had one.
when I started on the board.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
She was like she oversaw curriculum, and then there were other curriculum people.
And when did she leave?
We're hearing chatter from the audience that isn't getting picked up on the
It's a budget
microphones
committee meeting.
that some time ago,
Is this an
there were
official
different
meeting?
curriculum
Look, I didn't,
organization.
Mr. Chopa volunteered the information. I didn't
It's
ask
fine.
him a
It's just
question.
those
But I
people
do-
who are watching on TV didn't hear him, so that's why I was repeating.
I'm sorry, people on TV. I'm sure there's two of you. Althea's probably one of them.
Are you sure, Bill, really?
So
I'll get you.
now, look I've spoken maybe 5 times. I
I'm
don't think I
delighted.
prolonged this meeting much. And I want to speak to this because it's the one thing I think I have experience with. So I know that there are people who say we don't need more, I don't want to say fat at central office. What's the word? The euphemism.
Employees. Yes, I've heard the
Employees,
complaint that
headcount.
districts are administration heavy.
But I guess we'll have a conversation. It's just not in your wish list, so.
Again, I think we've had a conversation in central office, but knowing where we're going, we want to be mindful on, again, how many personnel people are not direct instructors. But we know curriculum development's a huge issue, and I think that's where we look at the steering committees. Are there other ways to actually get the work done that is not the sole responsibility of one person?
Mr. Claffey, are you good? Okay. Ms. Janice Williams? Oh, she waves off. I love that it's Mr. Claffey who had the last questions and not me. Anyone else?
I'll give you 10 seconds.
It's always me. I'm just so thrilled that it was Mr. Claffey. Did you have closing remarks, Dr.
I just want to
Andre?
really thank all the administrators who presented tonight. I think they did a remarkable job, robust conversations. I want to thank the board for a long night tonight. I think we anticipated a long night, just trying to condense everything. And I hope you heard it's one voice, it's one district. It's not departments competing against departments, but really what you saw tonight is a lot of the return on the investment, the academic return on the investment. One thing I would encourage the board to do is you received on March 7th last week, just a lot of supplemental or supporting documents what's in the budget. So there's a couple, again, historical data around what's our enrollment, trends over time. You'll see a budget broken down, line item analysis or report that goes into each and every line, essentially, and then, or by categories. You'll see school budgets. I think take a couple of seconds to digest on when you're looking at a school budget of, we'll just, operating budget, we'll just pick on one, for example, Lead Street. Lead Street's total budget is $42,000. Right, their operating budget, you take out personnel, the discretionary money to Lead Street is $42,000. Other schools are, and that's one of our bigger elementary schools. So other schools are less. So when we look at what are things we can potentially cut, when you look at the allocation to schools, you'll see that there's not a lot of funds that are really discretionary. So again, go back to that supporting documents on March 7th that you received from the district. There's, I think, 15 attachments. If you have any questions between now and Saturday, I highly encourage you to forward them to us, it would be great Thursday, Friday, so we have a little time to do some research on Saturday. But again, I want to thank all of our administrators. They did a fantastic job tonight, and I want to thank the board for thoughtful questions.
Thank you, Dr. Andre. The 15, it was a lot of attachments and a lot of data. Is that stuff also on the website for people out in the public who want to review it? And I know not all of the stuff that we got tonight is up there because some of it we got yesterday and today.
I would have to check in the morning. My computer's dead. I can't check.
I understand. Mine now has to be plugged in because it only lives for 2 hours. And then for Saturday, we're meeting at 10 here, right? It's a public meeting, so the public is invited. The agenda just says deep dive, which sounds very exciting. However, what should we be prepared for as far as how long should we plan to stay here? Because it is the Friends of the Library book sale. So, I'm double booked now. So how long should we expect? And then public comments are not on the agenda. Is there another day that we're having public comments, or should the public expect that they'll be allowed to speak?
No, so if you see our schedule, so Saturday's a working session. I really think when myself and Mr. Gray go through our presentation, there'll be questions. I'm probably anticipating 3 hours. But after that, I think we're going to be really tired and talking in circles at that point. What we really want to do is go into some of those 15 documents, look at some school budgets, really so that you have an understanding of what does it look like at the school level, pick on Mr. Miller, what does he have discretion over, and when you really break down those big line items, what does it mean at the school level? I think that's really important for greater understanding. And then we'll go over a couple scenarios where we talked tonight, what's in bucket one, what's in bucket two, things that need to go at that point. Really looking for your priorities at the end of the day too. And then at the end of the month, I think it's March 31st, that last Monday, is another budget presentation, so we'll take the feedback from Saturday, put it back into the sausage grinder, and at that point would be really our recommendations and getting ready for the public hearing.
Okay. And Ms. Kinsella has just contacted me to let me know that the materials, those 15 documents of all the meat and potatoes are on the website, and the public hearing will be on April 2nd. But people should absolutely come or watch so that they are prepared to ask specific questions or give us specific feedback. Ms. Bishop?
So while we're preparing for what we're going to be doing on Saturday in regards to the deep dive, I just want to bring us back to the discussion that we had about our board goals, and I just want to review them again so that we're all on the same page with what we've decided is the most important part of our district. So it's to enhance the educational experience of our students, to grow staff and decrease turnover, and to increase our connectedness with the community. So when we're talking about the budget and we're facing some harsh realities, we have decided as a board that those are our three main goals, and hopefully we stick with them and they help guide our decision-making. So we've already done the hard work. We don't need to do the moral values back and forth in regards to what we think is important. We've already established that. So enjoy, rest, and we'll be here Saturday, and maybe I'll bring some muffins.
All right. I don't see any other hands, so did someone want to make a motion to adjourn? I'll make it. I'll move to adjourn.
Second that motion.
Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. We are adjourned at 9:53.